Chris, every time after Dr. Stella has spoken, you have to remember to come back to unmute us again, so that she can hear us. So we are almost done. Anybody can go to the 24/7 Twitter handle and you will get the link for YouTube.
Man, I don't know what's today, man. Today I'm not feeling it.
Rock Boom, now in a new bottle with the same taste and same positive energy.
Yeah, I drop it like it's red hot. Shorty's coming back up.
Available in a flooded 20 ml PET bottle.
I just took a Rock Boom and I know it won't fly.
Rock Boom, feel the positive energy.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to Viewpoint. My name is Daniel Lutaya. You are listening to us, watching us live on YouTube, News 24/7 on YouTube, and on Twitter Spaces at News 24/7 UG. That's News 247 UG. Thank you very much for joining us live from wherever you're listening in. And I always start this show by saying good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, depending on where you are in the world, because we are digital media and therefore we do not only broadcast to Uganda. On the show today, we are going to be discussing the anti-homosexuality bill which was passed by Parliament this week, and I have an able panel that is going to be discussing these matters with me. I have Isaac Kayonde, usual suspect. He's a former member of Parliament aspirant for Gomba West and an NRM mobilizer. He always sits in that very chair. We should at this point just paint it yellow and make sure that he gets more comfortable. Good morning.
Good morning, listeners and fellow panelists. I'm glad to be here with you guys. I hope the debate goes well.
Next to him is Job Richard Matua. He's also a member of the NRM, and he's a political analyst, and he wears many hats.
A Pan-Africanist.
A Pan-Africanist. Good morning,
Aspire
Job.
National Vice Chairman for NRM for Northern Uganda.
Okay.
I greet all of you and my sister, Mumbeja, Dr. Stella Nyanzi.
Okay, next to me here to my left is Justin Badia. Good morning, Justin. How are you doing?
I am all right.
Welcome to
thank
the
you.
show.
It's very good to be here.
All right. Justin, you are Director of Access to Justice.
Yes, I am the Director of Access to Justice at Human Rights Awareness and Promotion Forum. Interested to know that you know nothing about me politically?
Okay.
No, that is
The politicians are here, so they...
that is actually politics at number one. I'll dissect into it.
Okay.
Yes.
Next to her is Counsel George William Alenyo. Good morning. You're welcome.
Good morning. I'm George William Alenyo, former senior state attorney and partner with Alenyo and Company Advocates, and my specialty is international law.
And on the other side, we have Dr. Stella Nyanzi, who is joining us live online. Good morning, Dr. Stella. All right. Now, let's dive right into it. I don't know where to start. Everybody here is
No,
very...
I want to start.
No, Job, you started the conversation.
Do you know why I'm
last
starting? Do you know
weekend.
why I'm starting?
Let me.
I have 14 years experience of teaching biology.
No.
So I want to-
Let me allow the lawyer to start, because this was a matter of law.
Yeah.
That we had a matter of law, and what we are discussing is a law. So as let me start with George William Alenyo. You are a lawyer, and therefore you must be understanding this law from a legal point of view. What is your opinion about the anti-homosexuality bill legally?
Legally, my opinion is that this is one of the best laws that our country has ever come up with. And it's a law that is going to set the morality of this nation straight. In law, we have two types of criminal law. We have laws we call mala insane, and we have laws we call mala prohibita. A mala insane is a law that addresses morality in a society. Mala insane. And those moralities they address are usually in the holy books, in the Quran, or in the Bible. This Anti-Homosexuality Act, is one of the best examples of mala insane. Because you look at the penalty for homosexuality, it's death. In Leviticus 20:13. In the Bible, the penalty set by God, the creator of the world, is death. Now, you see the Anti-Homosexuality Act corresponding with that, giving the death sentence, which is life imprisonment. So this is a very good example of mala insane. What is mala prohibita? These are crimes like traffic offenses. You can go to prison for them, you can pay a fine, but they are not addressing morality. Now, this law is one of the best. Harshness, I want to address immediately. People are talking of harshness. Do you know the harshest law in the country? It is the Wildlife Act of 2019, which provides that if you are found with even a kilo of bushmeat, or a piece of ivory, or just a piece of a skin of a wild animal, you'll be sentenced to death, to life imprisonment, or pay 20 billion shillings, even for a kilo of bushmeat. That to me is the harshest. This one,
And particular to somebody from
Anti-Homosexuality
Fakwati.
Act is not even harsh. It's just conforming. Now, this Anti-Homosexuality Act also resonates with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948. There are 30 declarations of human rights. 30 of them. And I want people to address very carefully the number 30, which says whatever rights you have are subject to the community rights. If I developed an appetite for killing women, raping and killing women, the law says you can have whatever you want in your mind, but you must subject it to community values. Is it right for the community that you should kill and rape? No. And I want to address another thing before I close. There is this talk about homosexuality being a right. I want to challenge you, my brother, to challenge anybody to quote a section in any laws of Uganda that confers that right. Quote an article in the East African Treaty, People's Treaty, that confers that right. Quote any article in the African People's Rights that confers the right to homosexuality. Quote me any article of the UN Declaration of Human Rights that confers that right. A right is not assumed, it's conferred specifically somewhere. Every time the homosexuals raise an issue about human rights, they fall back on discrimination. Discrimination is not about a right. It's not a right. That we're being discriminated, that's our right. No. First quote the right against which you are claiming you are being discriminated.
All right.
So this is the best law.
All right. Thank you very much. I want to talk, because there was a lot of talk about human rights, and Justin here deals with human rights a lot. Let's hear from you about this law from a human rights point of view. But also you could have answers to his questions, especially with regards to the laws that he's telling you to quote.
I feel very strongly that at this point I should also remind you that I am a lawyer.
Okay.
Even if I like the color orange.
The yellow people have sat on one side and the lawyers on one side. This is a great show.
Right. So I am going to begin by addressing very specifically what Councillor Lenyo is saying, because, wow. I like the argument that this law is the best law in the world because it addresses a serious moral issue and it correlates with all the wonderful strictures in the Holy Books, in the Bible and the Quran and all those things. It has been argued over and over again, exhaustively so, and while I enjoy the fact that people are quoting Leviticus over and over again and telling us how we should legislate in accordance with what Leviticus says, recently I was listening to someone else who was telling me all the other things for which people should be killed according to Leviticus, including a bride who cannot prove her virginity on her wedding night should be killed, including men who shave their beards should be killed. Hi. Including men who withdraw during sex and pour their sperm outside of the woman's vagina, they should be killed.
Yeah.
How many of these things are in the laws of Uganda? When somebody talks about morality and how this is a wonderful law because it is legislating morality, whose morality specifically are we talking about? Morality, clearly understood, at least as far as it applies to legislation, should be constitutional morality, not your religious morality, because Article 7, Uganda does not have a state religion. It does not mean Ugandans are irreligious. It simply means that when we are legislating, we have to ensure that we do not legislate in such a way as to appear that we are legislating for a certain specific religious
So we are a secular country.
understanding. We are a secular country. Not
Okay.
that we have no religion, but that religion has no business in parliament. We have no business first inviting a bishop to pray with us so that we can have the strength to chair this sitting and legislate wonderfully. We have no business standing on the floor of parliament and saying, according to Leviticus, 50 years in prison. We have no business standing on the floor of parliament and saying, according to Leviticus, castrate all of them. Because Uganda is a secular country, there is a reason why that is so. So laws that legislate morality are probably wonderful laws, yes. How many immoral things in Uganda are going by us? We see them, we talk about them, and then we move on. How many immoral things, if we are considering morality according to the Bible, are not legislated against? Who is legislating against fornication, for example? Does the Bible not consider fornication immorality anymore? If we are looking at the Bible as our basis for morality. Who is legislating adultery again? Who is catching all of these men going around, including archbishops and other people we are not going to mention, sleeping around with other people's wives? Who is legislating and catching them? Uganda does have a serious sexual abuse problem. But that sexual abuse problem is not homosexuals. It is straight men defiling little girls. From way before, we have always had a teenage pregnancy rate of 4 out of every 10 girls. That's 20%. Of 4 out of every 10 girls, ten girls below the age of 18, either having had a child or being pregnant by the time they're 19. That number went up to almost 6 out of every 10 girls during COVID-19. What are we doing about that? Why was that not a serious crisis? During the debate on this anti-homosexuality bill, I remember Honorable Semujunganda kept saying, what about the Mabati issue? Is that not a serious crisis? People stole things they had no use for.
Maybe corruption is not in the Bible.
Nobody possibly, really. Let's
is
come up to the New Testament about the corruption.
I think
in the
my
house of the
sister
Lord.
diverting.
No, I am not diverting. I am insisting on this one. When, people stole, nobody has anything to use 2,000 white iron sheets for, no matter how good the gauge is. Was that not a moral issue? Why did that not garner this same kind of... So morality is not really our reason for legislating homosexuality.
What is the reason?
I am going to go back again and say it is not. Recently, Honorable Basalira told us very publicly that he asked for permission for the first time to bring this bill to Parliament in August 2022. Between August 2022 and February 2023, he was not responded to, he was not given permission. Late February 2023, we all begin to hear about the issue of Mabati. Don't we begin to hear about homosexuality, because it did become a serious topic of public conversation in January, specifically 25th January 2023. So, and we still waited a whole month up to 27th February 2023 to give Honorable Basalira space to table this bill. Why? Is it because the Mabati conversation broke somewhere around that time? Because all these corruption scandals started to break and we needed to distract people from that moral question, so that we look at this different moral question. And 28th February, this bill is tabled. 3rd, it is gazetted. They gave us like 7 days to share our views on it, and then on Tuesday last week, it is debated and amended and then passed. Tuesday this week. It was Tuesday.
Yes, Tuesday this week.
And now we certainly have a law, and it is of course the most wonderful law in the country. We say that it's not the harshest law, and the Wildlife Act is harsher. Actually, I agree. That's surprising. I had never read this act. People who care about human life should definitely challenge this. Nobody should have to be sentenced to death because they have a piece of a skin of a wild animal. Of course, they shouldn't poach. That's a very bad thing. But being put to death for that sounds a bit extreme. But nevertheless, so I would like to finish this about homosexuality is not a right. Nobody has ever claimed that I have a right to be gay. Sexuality, however, is a right. You, Councillor Lenyo, have the right to be a heterosexual, if that is what you want. You have the right to be heterosexual and sleep with the women that you want in the way that you want, in a way that gives you pleasure and keeps you healthy. The right to health, the right to sexual and reproductive health is most definitely a right in Uganda's constitution. Look at Article 8A. In the International Convention on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, which Uganda has signed, in the African Convention on the Rights on Human and People's Rights, in the Convention on the Rights of the Child, in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which, let's not forget Declaration 1, specifically says, all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. Let me ask you a question. How is it dignified for me to come and peep into your bedroom and ask you how you're having sex? How is it dignified for you? How do you feel if somebody wanted to go that far with you? Of course, I don't want to be confused about this. I support the right of every human being to love who they want to love the way they want to love them, as long as they're adults and they're consenting.
Thank you very
So
much.
homosexuality is being conflated a lot with child abuse, which is confusing all of us and confusing this conversation. So when we talk about homosexuality, nobody's talking about, let men go and, rape little boys and do this and that to them. We're just saying, let 2 adult men who want to have sex in their bedroom do so and do not interfere. Let Justine Balia have sex with a woman she wants to have sex with, or even have anal sex with you, if that is what she pleases. Because this is not a moral question. This is a personal privacy, dignity, life issue for a significant portion of Uganda.
Yeah.
Okay, Job Richard Matua now.
I thank you very
I want
much.
you wanted to submit before, so probably you should submit now, or you want to respond.
I want to submit.
Yeah.
I want to submit, but I will put my response there.
Yes.
Actually, the viewers and our listeners, I want to say I'm very, very profoundly glad to be invited for this conversation. A conversation which borders biological, geopolitical, religious, social, and legal perspectives. That will be my approach in this conversation. So it is more than law. Please. It is more than law, and I want to demonstrate that empirically.
Explain.
1, biological. My sister, Justin, my brother, my two brothers, and my Pan-African brother.
Even your other sister is there.
Oh yes,
Online.
Mumbeja Stella Nyanzi, Dr. Stella Nyanzi, who's online with that. I want to start with the biological aspect of homosexuality. Now, biologically, there must be evidence that something is by nature. I want my sister Justin after here to prove to me that there is a research, biological scientific research to that effect. If not, that's a deviation. 1, 2, biologically we have both the systems, the reproductive system, the digestive system, the nervous system, and what have you. The digestive system opens from the mouth, one exit, that's where the entry is, and the exit is the anus. The anus. And its role in the physiology is very specific, my sister. It was not a mistake. It is not a mistake that you put food in the mouth, then the excreta goes through the anus. Can you put food in your anus and the excreta should come through the mouth? That will be a deviation. That will be reversal of nature, my sister. Please. Then, I want to, we have vagina. And the vagina is very specific, designed structurally, physiologically, and behaviorally to suit particular function. And accordingly, the tissues of vagina, the stratified squamous epithelium, is multi-layered. Is thick to withstand that abrasion by the penis. Some of these men have very big dick. Otherwise it would rupture, it would tear. And accordingly, by biological making, it is thickened. The muscle is, the tissue is thickened to withstand that. Anus does not have that morphology. Anus is not like that, because that is not the function of anus. So, therefore, vagina is for two functions, my sister. Birth canal, that's where the baby will pass. And then for insertion of the penis in an attempt to introduce the sperm so that can come in contact with the ovum for reproduction purpose, which is the cardinal role of the vagina. Then the anus. This is a passage, an exit of undigested food material. Even structurally, it is not made in a way that it should be there for withstanding abrasion. That is why most younger men who are sodomized have their rectum ruptured, because structurally, anatomically, it was physiologically, it was not designed for sexual intercourse biologically. So now, by the way, these laws, my sister, these laws you lawyers pride about, they are human laws. They are also natural laws, the laws of nature. Actually, we should have started this argument from the laws of nature. Was vagina meant for reproduction?
But don't you think that the people who did the Universal Human Rights Declaration and all, they knew this?
Let me tell you. Give me
because
time.
you're taking us back to biology.
I'm coming. I told you that I have four perspectives: the biological, which I'm bringing.
Yes.
The religious-social, the geopolitical. And
now
the
give us the religious-social. the religious-social.
So now I want to start with the geopolitical. I want to come to geopolitical. My sister Justin and my other brothers who are here. This homosexuality is the Western neo-colonial agenda to cause the depopulation of the blacks. There is a projection in the world that by 2050, every 10 humans on earth, 7 will be blacks. It is an official Western policy, and it was sanctioned during President Barack Obama's regime.
Do you have the evidence for
in
that?
fact,
do you have the evidence? Can you give us a link somewhere we can search?
I can tell you after
my
here,
producers can search something.
I can tell you after here you can follow the policies.
Because these are allegations, and people are listening to us.
Let the producers.
The allegations against the U.S. government, you have to prove them.
Can I tell you? Let the producers follow the U.S. foreign policies. Sanctioned during Obama's era in line with the LGBT right, the so-called LGBT right.
Which specific?
Which one?
Please, that one will follow. I can therefore say that. Please listen. I can therefore say the ultimate target of this homosexuality is the population of the blacks. And again, we have the same blacks who are doing the same thing during the colonial era, in the new colonial era now, collaborating with these enemies of the blacks to impose on us something biological and natural,
So,
illegal.
but have you?
And
Because I'm just
therefore-
trying to direct the conversation. Have
Yes.
you heard of homosexuality in Africa before the white people came? Have you heard of it?
Some people used to tell me, but I did not come in contact with any.
Okay.
Some people used to tell me.
Okay.
So I can therefore say, geopolitically, this is a tool to depopulate the black. Even when you go to the Western world, the practice is the numeracy in black communities. The whites who are coming for the blacks, there are people who have already given a birth. Now they come and they confuse the blacks. You get me? Even my sister, I'm very sure you have a child. Do you?
You cannot be.
Why didn't you choose to be a lesbian one way? You will answer. You will answer that one later. You will answer that. You will answer that.
Just a moment.
You will answer that. Then,
I'm going to ask you to submit without
Asking me
directing. Yes,
questions.
without
Now-
directing questions.
Now
Yes,
I want to say
personal questions. No personal
very
questions.
good, very good. I want to say, please, I want to say that fellow African, fellow blacks, this thing is targeting you. Just like the colonialists came. By the way, these people will always come in a disguise.
What about the religious social? I want to move on to Dr. Stella.
I'm coming to that.
Yes.
You know what? When these people came here, they first came in the name of explorers. You go and check the Johnny Speaks. These were senior army people. They were spies. Who came? Do you know the people they went with? They went with the geologists, map experts. Have you seen that? They were testing our soil, and then they disguised that they were visitors. They were not visitors. They were spies that came to spy our wealth in Africa here. And we call them explorers, visitors. Who invited
I'm going to move on to Dr. Stella,
Please,
and then
no.
you will return with
Let me finish. Then religious also. Religiously, go to Genesis 2:24. Union between man and woman. That is marriage. Go to Galatians 5 from 13 to 15. Galatians 5 from 13 to 15. God disapproves of gay sex. God disapproves of gay sex.
And the question that's going to be asked to you,
Yes.
and this is as we move to Dr. Stella,
I can
is
tell you.
whose God says it?
I will answer.
Because in Uganda we
I will-
have,
I will-
and in the whole world, you know, the whole world is listening.
I will,
So
I
want to,
will answer.
yeah, there
I
are
will answer that.
Indians,
I will answer
there
that.
are
I will answer that.
Buddhists.
Yeah. Go to Genesis 19 from 23 to 29. Genesis 19 from 23 to 29. Destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah because of gay sex practices. Now, I want to come to the legal aspect of this law. I have heard people saying that this is the most harsh law we can talk about in this country. People, I want to tell you this. All human laws are very harsh because they are meant to curtail certain things. They are meant to restrict certain things from others. It is only laws of nature which are fair to everybody. For example, by nature, you must eat. And by nature, you must defecate. If you don't do any of the two,
Okay.
it will inconvenience you.
Okay, you're
Now,
going to
therefore-
hold the rest of your points. We still have a lot of time on the show.
Okay,
Hold
okay.
the rest of your points. I want to give an opportunity to Dr. Stella Nyanzi to also weigh in on this
If you can
debate
allow me to
as
wrap
we
in line
start.
with our question.
No. I'm not going to allow that. Dr. Stella Nyanzi, please go ahead. Dr. Stella, you can go ahead. We can hear you.
Right, so I'm holding a copy of Constitution and that because you asked about a legal question of the lawyer and it was rejected, and we also have the biology teacher speaking. This constitution is the supreme law of this land. This is the Bible, the Constitution of Uganda, the Bible of Uganda. The Constitution in Article 7 states very clearly that Uganda shall not adopt a state religion. We are a secular state. And I want to celebrate with the rights to human rights.
Audio is a little bit down, but I hope you can hear.
Has highlighted how the Constitution of Uganda clearly states that you shall not have a state religion or a secular state. And so when a lawyer, senior counsel, former state prosecutor,
to read the law.
I also want to submit that human rights are inalienable. We are born with human rights. They are not given to us by the state. It is okay if individuals quote from the Bible.
She talked about Article 8, Article 7, then 8. I want to read it.
But secular states insist on separation between the state and the church, the state and religion for us all, for a particular people. We must not therefore in a country such as Uganda, which has multiple religious faiths, which has Christians,
believe in Judeo, the Torah, the Quran, the Bible, Muslims who practice the Quran-based faith, and also those of us who are no longer practicing foreign religions. You cannot force a specific religious doctrine on us, right? Slavery was justified using the Bible. The owning and buying of humans in order to provide labor, to ship labor, was justified using the Bible. I want us to remember that our religious sentiments, we are entitled to them. It's a constitutional right for you to have whatever religion you want to. That must not be brought into the laws that govern our country if we are to abide by our constitution. So go quote Leviticus in your Bibles, go quote Galatians and Genesis to your children. Teach them whatever religious morality you want to have. Do not bring it into our secular state, because the constitution says we shall not adopt a state religion. I want to move on as well because one of the people talked about community values. Community values. The very same constitution, when talking about citizenship, highlights 65 indigenous communities. 65 indigenous communities in Uganda. 65 communities are represented when one is protecting community values. Right? Is there a homogeneous value that we're trying to protect? Is there a homogeneous Ugandan community? Is there a Ugandan essence of community values that you're trying to protect? Let us begin to question and think critically about what we mean when we say, oh, we're protecting community values. Well, we had at least 60 recognized communities, indigenous communities, that are documented in our constitution at the time, in 1923, when this was listed. I want to move to the argument made by Job about biology.
Yes.
And Job is talking about anal sex and vianas and vaginas. Job, I wish that your teachers who taught you biology had gone beyond this binary conflation that refuses to recognize that there is more chromosomal differentiation than X, Y. The X chromosome, the Y chromosome. There are so many other varieties of chromosomal variation within human beings. You want biology? Go and do your own investigations. I think for me that talking about biology and insisting on how anal sex happens is an unnecessary obsession with anal sex, as if homosexuality is just the act of penetrating an anus. Homosexuality comes in diverse forms. It is not just about sexual act, it's about expressions, it's about orientation, it's about desire, it's a lifestyle. And again, I want to say that there are more than 2 genders. Educate yourselves, people. There are more than 2 genders. We have a lot of intersex children in Uganda. I will stop at the intersex child, but they're transgender people. They're non-binary gender confirming people. And the last thing I want to highlight in my initial submission is this idea of the Western neocolonial imperialism, the idea that homosexuality was introduced into Uganda by white-skinned people from Europe and North America. I want to thank Daniel for asking about pre-colonial formations where homosexuality, same-sex desire was found, and it's been documented. I am a Muganda. In Buganda, in the courts of our Kabaka, we have a historically documented, undisputable fact of the matters of Uganda. We celebrate the matters of Uganda. Why do we celebrate them? Because when they were converted into Christianity, they decided to stop having same-sex practices with Kabaka Mwanga. It is documented. I'm a Muganda. In Buganda, who is more cultural, who is more indigenous than the institution of the Kabaka? Do you want to be more African than the Kabaka? Kabaka Mwanga, you know? And so in my culture as a Muganda, even before the colonizers came, same-sex practices were happening in the court of the Kabaka. If you don't know this, go and read your history. We know for a fact that, in fact, the Western neocolonial right-wing evangelicals are responsible for the recurrent waves of homophobia. They link up with people like Pastor Martin Semper, Pastor Malen Solomon, Pastor Stephen Nanga. They come to our parliaments, and the real neocolonial importation begins with people quoting from Leviticus to us in English, begins with evangelicals coming in aeroplanes and pumping the Bible and homophobic scripture to our parliamentarians, to our executive, the president, and then the real neocolonialism is happening on the wings of Western evangelicals from America, Europe, etc. I hope my initial submissions have been clear. This is a bad law. It does not only criminalize same-sex practicing individuals, it also criminalizes professionals such as myself who produce knowledge on the daily about topics of human sexualities. I have 20 years of research on the topic, including homosexualities. I have published. Now, the problem with the current law, under guises of protecting against promotion, recruitment, what was the third? Funding as well, is that professionals, medical doctors, lawyers, even journalists, as well as civil society organizations who may speak in favor of the rights, the human rights to life, the human rights to health, the human right to education and shelter, basic human rights of same-sex loving people, we shall be criminalized. The right to shelter and housing, people are going to be criminalized simply because they are housing individuals who may or may not be engaged in same-sex practices. And I think this law is totally unacceptable, because those of us who were in Uganda in 2009 up to 2014, we witnessed the effects of whipped-up hatred and bigotry from homophobia. And for me, it's very painful to have watched a number of Ugandans departing from the country, going into asylum seeking, and they're currently refugees, and others obtain citizenship in other locations. But the worst tragedy is those Ugandans who could not afford the means and connections to leave the country and had to suffer immense forms of human rights violations in the country because of the homophobia that is whipped up by homophobes who do not even understand what human sexualities are. Thank you very much, Daniel, for my initial submissions. I'm happy to come back later.
I'm I'm seeing how people are just playing around the bush, beating around
All right.
the bush.
Thank you very much, Dr. Stella, for your submissions. Now, I want to go to Isaac Kayonde, who always, because of the corner that he chooses, he always gets to speak last. But I think he chose it. He chose that corner strategically because he gets to say a lot more things because he's always the last person to speak. Isaac, you've heard it from everybody.
Yes.
What do you have to say about the bill?
Thank you very much. What do I have to say about the bill? Well, this is, I want to address it. First and foremost, really, I want to acknowledge that people who have been anti-homosexuality bill have really addressed this issue from a wrong point of view. This here is not a religious debate. This is about our society as Uganda. So for me, I'm not going to quote Bible verses and everything. And the problem is that us who might have our religious inclinations are arguing with people like Stella Nyanzi who do not subscribe to our religious beliefs. And in that regard, they tend to dismiss anything that you have as regards biblical and historic things. Now, that said, I want to argue this from a perspective of politics or society in general. People like Stella Nyanzi who have really come out to declare that they are believers in democracy, when it comes to issues like this which are contentious, tend to throw that out of the window. One of the things is that, look, democracy as a principle dictates that the majority's desire outweighs the minority desire. So in that regard, she was talking about 65 communities in Uganda. But as a state of Uganda, we have encompassed all those 65 communities, and we have said that the reflection of how we want to live shall be in our laws. So we make laws that will govern us as a society. Let me give you an example. Female genital mutilation, right? This here is a practice which was predominant in the Sabini and those areas that they had done for centuries. Now, my culture, I have never experienced. My sisters have never experienced this. In Buganda, they don't experience it, But as a society of Uganda, we outlawed female genital mutilation. I didn't hear any human rights activists calling for cultural rights, which are there in all those statutes, either UN and whatever.
But the majority of the Sabinis wanted it to stay.
Yes.
So why did we just use democracy then?
No, we used
It was by democracy that
the
they chose.
majority
Of
of
who?
us who even never have experienced it, never said anything, we went to parliament and outlawed female genital mutilation, right? Because universally as a community of Uganda, we said this is a practice that is not good for us. The Sabinis have their own opinion about it, but we said for as long as you are in Uganda, please desist from this. Now, whether it is natural, nature, whatever it is, we as a society, we have set our laws to outlaw this, right? So, for me, the issue of the fact that us as Ugandans, we have decided, the majority, I have not seen a bill in Uganda that has garnered as much support from the population across the aisle, that I can assure you 90% of Ugandans will support this bill if it went for a vote, right? So, inevitably, we are saying as a society, this is what we want to, this is how we want to live. We don't want this to go on. Yeah? So that is the aspect of the democracy principle that I expect them to, I expect any democratic loving person to continue to respect that decision. And the people abroad there who either give us aid and do whatever should respect the fact that this is how we have chosen to live. That is that. Now, I want to take the panelists and the others who are listening in, that the bill, the anti-homosexuality bill was very clear, and I think it's in the preamble, or not the preamble, the principle of the bill, in the first statement. What is the use of this law? The preamble, the principle of the bill was, why are we bringing this bill? We are bringing, it stated, the object of the bill is to establish a comprehensive and legal framework to protect traditional family. So we are not bringing it just for nothing.
To please a white man.
To please anybody.
Huh?
No, there is a purpose to the bill, and the purpose to the bill is to protect the traditional family. Now, we have had, there are even programs called the modern families that we see the Western world, putting on TV and everything, where you can have a man and adopt a child, or two women. Yes, but as Ugandans, we have said, okay, for the continuity of life, for the preservation of our society in terms of numbers and everything, we are going to design a law to protect the traditional family and its values. So that is how this comes. So is there a need for it? We can debate whether there's a need for it, right? But I think that it is important to protect that traditional family. That's a belief I hold, and probably others, whether Muslim, Buddhist, or whatever it is, hold dear. Now, I want to address the issue Dr. Stella Nyanzi talked about general biology. I don't want to go as far as two are here.
Yes.
He has become
he's a former biology, lecturer. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. That's good to know. But I want to understand, I want us to recognize there are two words here that we contend with when we come to this thing. And the debate, and President Museveni was very clear when he was talking about it. Nurture versus nature. Now, while we may recognize that nature gives these, like she said, different chromosomes or whatever it is, I want to recognize that there is something like intersex, and she talked about the intersex children. I don't want to be obsessed with the sex that is going on here. There's an issue of intersex. And yes, children are born intersex, but the same science gives us the ability to go into the gene chromosome, the genetic makeup of this child, and identify whether this child is male or female. And things like...
If I could give you biological information,
Yeah.
in such a case,
Yeah.
one of the systems is inactive.
Okay.
And the result is, in fact, it comes as the result of mutation.
Okay, thank you very much for your...
I will explain that
Yes.
to detail.
So science dictates, that go in there, we have an intersex child. Now the fact that we have this intersex child, DNA is done and all those other things that are done, and they prescribe that, okay, this dominant gene is for male and female. And that's how they come up with these genders, right?
Okay.
Today, you gave everybody enough time. I suggest you let me finish my point.
Let him talk. Let my brother talk.
Today, the discussion, while we are on homosexual, in the sports world, there is this now debate of transgenders competing with female athletes that is going on today in the Olympic world. This is not happening here. This is happening in their countries. And they are dictating and saying, look, transgenders shall not compete with
women.
With women. So that is an issue that needs to be addressed, that science in itself has a way it distinguishes male and female. Now, I want to also be very clear. This law, that is the nature bit about it. Now, this law primarily is trying to address nature. It's trying to address nature. That there are habits that we pick and then they become who we are. Nobody's born an alcoholic. But I can assure you, when one becomes an alcoholic, right, there's nothing and little will that they can do to fight it because it is there in them. So they go to rehab and everything. We could say, you know what? We legislate against alcohol. We legislate against things that people choose to do. We legislate against cigarettes, for goodness sake. A person's will to pick a cigarette and go and smoke it wherever. You get?
But we've never said they should die.
No, we never.
Smokers should
and
be
I
killed.
also, you see, for me, I come from the school of thought that we can hate the sin and love the sinner, and preserve the sinner. So we are not yet about to see death. And then secondly, the narration that homosexuals in Uganda are under threat and we are stoning them. We are, the dramatization of the whole thing. Nobody's watching your bedroom affairs. And we're saying, look.
But this law is going to do that. Have you seen the law?
Yes, I have seen the law.
Because they're saying hosting homosexuals in a house. If you are a landlord, gets you in trouble.
One of the things that is that you identify yourself as that and say, okay, us, we are going to do a gay parade. Us, we are going to go to a house and celebrate our homosexuality. Even us heterosexuals are not allowed to be shagging each other on the road. You get? We don't go walking naked, declaring that, you know me, I love Justine. No, we don't do that. And it's against as a community, again, we have prescribed and said, it's happening in the West. You can walk naked, go in thongs and do these carnivals and everything. That's what they have chosen to allow. We are not allowing it, either for heterosexuals or homosexuals or whatever it is. So for me, this bill, in as much as we may address some of the harsh issues like death, I am not a believer in death for this. I think for me, it is more of curtailing the nurturing. Just last week, 6 boys, I don't know, 6, 5, were arrested in Ginger.
Yes.
For filming each other doing all these things. And one of the things that was highlighted by these boys was that, look, we are paid money, 500 to 5 million shillings, to promote this. There have been complaints against SMAG. There have been complaints. There are different organizations. So we are saying, look, if government is trying to curtail the promotion, and why are we seeing an increase? Why are we seeing an increase in numbers of these? If it was a nature thing and it was, let's say, 1% of our population then, how is it that, okay, maybe it has risen to 1.5? How did it get to 2%? So those are things that we need to discuss and see, Now, the other thing, Dr. Stella Nyanzi and Justine here was talking about human rights. And we said, look, while the word human rights is there, we have human rights as observed internationally, that they are international human rights, recognized human rights, these that are universal. Now, what I can assure you, the West has avoided, they have avoided to bring this as an issue of human rights. They have discussed it in the Human Rights Commission, I think the UN Human Rights Commission, where there are only 35 countries that voted on this and passed it. But the West has been so deliberate not to bring this to the floor of the UN General Assembly. And it is deliberate because they know they do not have the numbers to pass this as a universal human right. Yes. So if they are genuine, if they believe that the world has reached the stage of take it to the floor and let us find ourselves debating this issue at an international level, and they will know for sure that this is a practice that is not acceptable to a certain large section of the world.
All right. I want to bring back Council.
You asked me something I wanted to clarify about the US thing.
Unless Council allows you to take it.
Yes.
Your time will come. Okay. Council, let's go back to you. From a legal perspective, this law is redundant, according to the Attorney General of this country, who is the lead lawyer, the government lawyer of all of us, by the way, because when they say Uganda versus, it is him.
Yes.
He says the law is redundant because it is everything that it speaks about is addressed elsewhere in other laws that are already existing in the country. And that's one of the reasons why he thought that it was not really necessary to bring this law. And don't you think that this falls into the narrative that this was a diversion away from Mabati?
No, I want to say this. Let me first keep myself legal,
Yes.
not to talk about the Mabati, because that's another crime. That's another crime, theft.
Also, you have to talk about the American evangelicals that are funding the anti-homosexuality issues. Yes, American evangelicals.
In the same,
Stella Nyanzi spoke about
in the same USA.
Yeah,
Present.
Don't eat in my time.
Yeah.
You will come, please.
Most observe.
My brother, it's the first time to meet you in my life, but I like your reasoning.
Thank you very
May
much.
God bless you. And you should be empty of
Thank you.
Moderator, this is a very wide topic, and so it's good that we be within the means. Your question was whether this law is redundant. I want to assure you that the Attorney General of the Republic of Uganda embarrassed himself before the Parliament of Uganda to any lawyer. This is the second time he was embarrassing himself before Parliament. The other time, on the coffee penalty contract, he said it was proper when even a year one loyal student saw it was wrong, and the whole nation saw it was wrong.
Correct.
He is the chief legal advisor, but my brother, you a Ugandan, African. Do you know that when the cock crows in the morning, it has no monopoly of knowing that it is morning? Even the hen knows, but leaves it to the cock to crow. But when the cock crows at midnight, the hens won't come out. Watapinga, they will say no. So the Attorney General of Uganda is not the ultimate legal advisor. How many lawyers did we have there? I'm more senior than him. There are very many more senior lawyers in the house who defied his reasoning. Why? I tell you, it was a very embarrassing moment for us lawyers. For the Attorney General to quote a section that defeated him. He quoted section 39 of the 1967 Interpretation Act. And what does that section say? It says actually that you can have two offenses in two different acts. And when you have two offenses in two different acts, then the courts and prosecutors will choose which one to use. So he was using this same argument to say that the Anti-Homosexuality Act is redundant because it provides for penalty for what already the Penal Code Act provides. You see, he used his own argument, shut him down.
But what is the general practice about duplication of laws?
It can be there. It can exist. It can exist.
So we leave it at the discretion of the court to
Yes,
decide
and the prosecutor.
whether it is death according to Basariwa's law or it is.
Exactly. Because let me tell you, there are two circumstances. We are now having a situation in this country. We are having a situation in this country whereby, you see, the Penal Code never addresses, never addresses promotion. It didn't. And that's why we have been having pastors in this country using the same Attorney General to play around with the Penal Code. And they have been sodomizing children and surviving.
Yes.
Because the same Attorney General was not sincere to Uganda.
Very good.
If he was, he would have mentioned the case of Nabagesera and Onzima, who took the Attorney General himself to court. Not him as Attorney General, but the office of the Attorney General. And they defeated Uganda. Using the old Penal Code, they say, for us, we are promoting and we are discussing how homosexuals can survive in Uganda, but we are not doing it. I see. That is how weak the original Penal Code was. And that is why the Attorney General should have gone to defend the new act which says we cover promotion also. You see, that's why we are not going to have this Attorney General. We are going to move that he be replaced. If this country is to be serious, we are not going to have him.
I wanted to give you information.
It's like the situation in Kenya. It's like the situation in Kenya, where the Chief Justice of the nation, please give me time. It's like in the situation we have in Kenya, where the Chief Justice of the nation, who is supposed to be very intellect and reasonable. You know, lawyers are supposed to be above reason. Now, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, with the entire bench, ruled that homosexuality is still an offense in Kenya, but homosexual NGOs can register to operate in Kenya. And the least educated person in Kenya, the Archbishop of the Anglican Church of Kenya, said, Madam, you are the people who control reasoning. Now, if I came with you with an organization to support robbers, would you register it? What would be the objective in the articles and memorandum of association? That we want to promote robbery, theft, homosexuality? Because in her ruling she said it's an offense, but you can register a company. So the Penal Code was of like effect. It criminalizes the offense, but leaves out promotion. And what is the problem here with homosexuality in Uganda? It is not about the people doing, but how they are forcing it upon other people. I am a Christian and I've studied the Bible. It says, God himself did not punish homosexuals in Sodom and Gomorrah until he got the evidence that they were forcing it on others. How did God do it? Read the Bible. God sent two angels into the city of Sodom and Gomorrah. And God stood with Abraham, said, let's see what they will do to my angels. If they force them into homosexuality, or if they attempt That's why in the Anti-Homosexuality Act we have the section of just attempting. So what happened in Sodom and Gomorrah? The Sodomites attempted to rape angels of God. And God said, now I've got you. I pour sulfur now. God poured sulfur and destroyed the nation. I want to caution Andrew Mwenda in this country. We understand they have been going to the Western world saying homosexuals in Uganda are in trouble, they are being victimized. No, that narrative is no.
But are
In
they being
Uganda,
victimized?
let me
We've just passed a law that you know talks about media houses that host homosexuals, you know,
I'm going to
with
quote you the
closure
section.
and whatever.
Yeah, I'm going to quote you that section. Now you see, in Uganda it is the contrary. Homosexuals are armed. The places where they are doing homosexuality is guarded.
Do you have evidence?
We have, and I'm speaking as a lawyer. Quote me and let them take me to court. We have a situation here. Everybody will tell you that it's not easy to touch those people. And we are beginning to know who is arming them.
Armed, do you mean with guns?
With guns and protection. By the way, Ugandans know where these things take place. And they know that they are not easy to reach. We have a policeman who was killed in this country. He was a bodyguard to a pastor. The next day when he was going to testify against that pastor, he was killed. I want to be quoted if this is wrong, and then we activate that one. So, in Uganda, the narrative is different. Homosexuals are being supported by one of the most powerful people. Do you doubt the power of Andrew Mwenda in this country? He's one of the most armed people.
He's a journalist. That's all I know.
Have you ever seen him in the military helicopter?
I have not seen him
Did you not
armed.
see that? Did you not see him in the military helicopter?
I
in this
did,
country?
but I've not
You
seen him
did.
armed. And I've been with
You
I've been
did.
with Andrew Mwenda on shows. I've not seen him declaring a
You
weapon, at
did
least.
see him in full military fatigue and attire.
He has escorts,
Yesterday.
military escorts. I can confirm on
Yes, and yesterday, I want to assure you, yesterday, I appeared on the Radio 4, the radio station of Balam. And the anti-homosexuality movement in Uganda has issued a statement. It is here. I'll give you a copy. Saying, if this so-called generational leader, Muhoozi, wants to further his political interests in Uganda, he must immediately dismiss his spokesman, who is Andrew Mwenda. Because Andrew Mwenda is not going to stand in this country of ours, support homosexuality in the morning, and then support Muhoozi in the evening. Either he must go.
Don't you think that by doing that you are proving what you are saying that they tell the West,
I
that
think I can see
homosexuals or people that inferred to support them are being victimized?
This is how I
Because wait,
is-
let me finish this question.
Yes.
Does Andrew Mwenda's support of the LGBTQ community, does it negate his acumen as a journalist or as a communicator? Because you're saying he should be fired because of what he supports. Don't you think that you are then victimizing him because of
This is
and therefore proving what you say
want-
this is
wrong?
what I want to answer you. I was addressing the militant nature of the homosexuals in this country. Can you imagine that when 369 members of parliament of the Republic of Uganda sat to pass a law, one single Ugandan dared to call it stupid? That is militance. Now, I want to address my sister, Stella Nyanzi. You mentioned correctly that we have 65 clans in Uganda, indigenous groups. You said we have 65 indigenous groups in Uganda under the constitution. And I want to give you the challenge right now. Quote me only one of those indigenous groups that supports homosexuality. Kabaka Mwanga was actually overthrown in Buganda. Olimumbeja.
He was overthrown by the West.
No, he was Kabaka Mwanga
He was removed by the West
Listen,
and
listen.
taken to exile.
Listen.
That's historical fact.
I am giving you facts, and you are going to cross-check this and find me right. After Kabaka Mwanga murdered so many people, martyrs for homosexuality, Buganda rose up against him. Because now he had gathered, this is on the internet by the way, Wikipedia. He now gathered every homosexual in the country. He wanted to take them to Sese Island to kill them. That's when there was an uprising. For the first time in the history of Uganda, we had 2 Kabakas within a period of a year. Kalema, that's how Kabaka came. There was an uprising, and they sought the assistance of the Church Missionary Society. So I want to challenge you. Oboli Mumbe Jadala, that also as a Buganda, tell me whether Buganda culture, tell me which community. Now I want
your time is coming to an end.
2 things. Now, as my time comes to an end. So give me that one community in Uganda that supports homosexuality. 2, that Uganda is a secular state under Article 7. Yes, Uganda is a secular state. But Uganda is made up of the families that are in Uganda. I watched the president take oath of office, and I watched all the members of parliament take oath. They either took oath with the Bible or the Quran. That's why in parliament they were quoting the Bible, the book by which they took oath. Article 7 does not say we are atheists. Uganda is not an atheist state.
No, but atheists are allowed because it's secular state.
Can I?
They are allowed.
That's why
Yes.
the point says, how many are they? And that's where, my brother, you have brought a king point. Democracy.
Yes.
If the democracy they are fighting for is to be upheld, then the democracy was in parliament, 369 MPs.
Let me. I want to bring in Justin.
I just
because
wanted
it's been
to give
long.
him
I want to bring in
information
Justin, but no. Your time is right after Justin. Your time.
Give him information.
No, take a note of that.
Okay.
I want to ask this question, and I want you to hold it. You'll answer it later when your time comes.
Yes.
Don't you think that apartheid was passed by a majority? And don't you think that at that moment it was right, it was legal, and whatever was done by the apartheid government in South Africa was actually legal by the law of the time?
It was legal.
As
50,
was
100 years later, even slave trade was legal.
It was not
Slavery
it was not majority. It was not
By
majority.
the time, no, what I'm saying is
Slave
this:
trade was not
the
a
Parliament
majority.
of
No.
South Africa,
The majority were the
Parliament.
blacks.
No, just a moment.
Yes.
Just a moment. The Parliament of South Africa at that moment
Yes.
had majority white, and therefore they chose it, and it became a law, and that's why it worked. So maybe you can hold that thought, and then
I
we'll
will
move
hold
on.
it.
Justin.
Thank you very much, Daniel. And I am going to give myself the privilege of taking even a little bit more time because, we are giving a lot of time to the anti-homosexuality debate. So, but yes, I have listened very carefully to all that has been said, and I want to address this in four specific issues. But I just wanted to confirm one thing because it felt to me very strongly like, number one, either you implied that Andrew Mwenda is a homosexual, or that he's a homosexual and he is responsible for the killing of that pastor's guard or something, or at least for the giving homosexuals guns to kill people or to force people into homosexuality. It's a very insidious argument, but I did get the very strange feeling
I didn't get
that happened, and yet I did.
Honest.
I did.
I'm going to protect Justin because
But that's
everybody
like-
has had their opportunity
No,
to
of
speak.
course,
Just
it's
take
here,
Let's
and,
not impugn something.
no,
I don't
of
think
course.
he meant some other.
I am
I
sure
wasn't
that he
imputing.
probably did not mean
But
to
he
mean
did say that
that.
So why
he did say
why
that
do you want?
homosexuals in Uganda are armed and they have
and
guns.
that because of Andrew Mwenda's support.
That is not what he said.
No,
that's
but he
But,
said, okay.
but I want to move on from that
Do you
one.
want him to
Let's-
tell us
no,
what
no.
he was?
I want to,
What I learned.
of course, by all means, please clarify that. because
Clarify
it's a
that point
dangerous
because
thing
you
to
said
say.
Andrew Mwenda, you have seen him armed, you have seen him with
And he's
choppers,
and
military
he's a very
choppers,
powerful
and he's a
supporter
very
of
powerful
homosexual.
person.
No, he's here. Let's not talk for
Mr.
him.
Matua.
Job, he is here. Let him say himself what he meant.
He did not meant that Andrew Mwenda is arming homosexual to go and kill
But
people.
he's-
No, he let him
And you
speak.
cannot-
Let him
Yes.
speak. Let him speak. Yes.
These are the
Because he
moments-
can stand, he
Yeah.
can speak with his
These
chest.
are the moments of Elijah
Yeah.
in this country.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to talk.
Yes,
Yes.
Samson.
Right. What
In 1 minute, because
Yes,
you
what
are
quacks like a
clarifying.
what quacks like a duck and looks like a duck must be a duck. In my opinion, I think Andrew Mwenda is a homosexual. 2, we have done our research in this country. I'm saying we are trying to investigate where the arms protecting homosexuals come from. And my first suspect, and our first suspect, is Andrew Mwenda. His brother is a general in the UPDF. He has links even with arms across this country. and out of this country is our first suspect.
But counsel,
I am saying-
you are accusing somebody who's not here to defend himself.
I am
That
saying-
is wrong, given by law.
I am saying in my mind, he's a suspect, and I'm entitled to my opinion.
Maybe you
whether
can.
it is wrong.
Maybe you
I'm
should look. You
entitled
should
to
look
my
into the
own
camera and
opinion.
say it on your own, because
Yes.
we don't
Can
want
I-
to say.
can I look into the
Yes, that's your
Yeah,
camera,
he has-
because
Okay,
It is
you were
not
right.
an opinion of this
Please
panel.
proceed.
yes.
It is not an opinion of News 24/7.
It's your opinion.
It is my opinion, to which I'm entitled and to which I can be taken over to court.
Okay.
I say, according to the words Mwenda says, to me, he's a homosexual. And according to his military connections, he's a suspect in the people arming homosexuals.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay,
Now,
so
Justine, you can
since
go
we're
ahead.
very obsessed with our culture and all those things, and the Baganda selo bali womulamu tasamirirwa, Andrew Mwenda jali ajja kweyogerera. Let us focus on the arguments about the culture of the people of Uganda that we have talked about, that we are not talking about the religion, we are talking about our culture. When people talk about the culture of the people of Uganda,
Yes.
like Stella Nyanzi said, I keep getting confused about what culture specifically that we are talking, whose culture. You talked about female circumcision. I have personally never been a fan of how that was handled in Uganda, because the people who practice female circumcision, they have reasons, they have cultural backings behind what they do. I feel more, it would have been more helpful if they had talked to them through this process, found out what the most critical part of that is, removed the dangerous parts, and left them with at least a big part of their culture. Because female circumcision is not just about come here, squat, chua, go, come here, squat, open your legs, chua. It was a whole process of educating girls, getting them ready for marriage. If you left them all that and removed the cutting, they would maintain their culture. It was never just about the cutting. We could have done better. And this explains why the girls in Sabine and the Sibey are still being circumcised, just not in Uganda, and much more dangerously now, because they have to hide that. We could have done better with that law. So female circumcision is a very,
She's protected.
for me, female circumcision
Right
is
down.
a very, it's of course a dangerous thing, and even the underpinnings of it, the cultural underpinnings of it are very patriarchal and nonsense. And yes, the cutting of it needed to go away, but there were better ways to protect people's culture. So culture, it's a huge thing, and it's a huge debate, because you cannot say, but what is this African culture, this reified view of African culture, where we choose what we want to believe, we choose what is good for us, we choose what we want to take. I mean, you're talking about traditional African families, for example. Among in the Umoja village in Kenya, they are all women. They do not allow men there. If you want to have sex, you call a man, he serves you, he goes away. If you give birth to a boy child, once he reaches puberty, he goes away. Are those families not functional? Are they not normal? Do they not raise well-adjusted, healthy children? Has anybody from the Akamba village complained of being sexually assaulted, for example? Are they raising the men who are sexually abusing the women on the streets of Uganda every day? That there is no one definition of family. My son and I live alone, and I intend to maintain it that way, because honestly, I do not really feel like I want to live with a man. There is nobody who can convince me that that is not a family. When my son goes to class and they ask him who is the head of the family, my son says repeatedly and without flinching, mother is the head of our family, but they told us in the book that father is the head of a family. Because I am the head of that family. And that is okay. When I was growing up, my mother was the head of a family. And that was a very wonderful family. We grew up well-adjusted, independent, healthy, happy adults. There is no such thing as a one view of the African traditional families are not nuclear the way we want to make them sound. They have never been nuclear. And African traditional families have always been plagued by very interesting problems. Incest, the rape of children by their grandfathers and uncles, is such a huge problem that we never talk about, because of Munju. What is African culture? Among the Akamba, women traditionally, culturally, took wives to have children for them. Female husbands among the Akamba is a real thing. It's a historical tradition, well-established fact. So, and of course, that wasn't really about sex. So I don't want us to confuse and say, oh, the Akamba are always lesbians.
Why
It
did
was not
these
sexual.
women have
But
sex among
females
themselves?
who could not have children were allowed to take wives to have children for them. Is that wrong? Is that, in their culture, women with women in a marriage is actually not a shocking thing. So whose culture are we talking about? When we stand here and talk about how the West is imposing all these things on us,
Yes.
and then we begin to quote the Bible, in English, wearing your wonderful suit and your beautiful silk tie. What European influence are we talking? Everything here is European influence. We are debating in English instead of Luo.
see.
We should be speaking in Leblanc, but we are here debating in English, but we are very angry with
I'll
Western
res-
influence.
I'll respond to
the
that.
Bible that we are arguing over and quoting and insisting on and whatever is Western influence. It is pure Western influence.
Came on a boat.
My brother Joe,
Yes.
Jesus, that Jewish guy, he didn't die for your sins. He died for the sins of the Jewish people. But it is okay for us to co-opt the parts of the Bible that, that make sense for us. At least in my opinion, and you can call me an atheist, I am okay with this. The Bible is a curated history of the Jewish people. When you say in Galatians, God said. In Galatians, God didn't say. In Galatians, Paul said. Paul, an old Jewish guy, said. I want you to show me in the Gospels where Jesus said, and Jesus said unto them, do not be homosexual. Of all the things Jesus said, that is not one of them. Jesus never once said, do not be homosexual. In Genesis, where God said and said and said and said, he also said so many other things that we are disregarding now. He said, don't eat pigs. We are eating them and very happily so, and growing fat on them. He said so many things that we have chosen to disregard because this is the one part of the Jewish culture.
Yes.
Homosexuality is not un-African. The thing that is un-African is homophobia. African culture is essentially Ubuntu, that we love and we respect all the people that we live with. We are because they are. Everybody who lives where you are, everybody who is your neighbor should be protected. And this takes me to the point about dramatization, that homosexuals are dramatizing their plight in Uganda.
Yes.
And for this one, I am going to get very personal. You see, my work at Human Rights Awareness and Promotion Forum is not as a human rights activist. It is as a lawyer. I give legal aid every day to homosexuals, among other people, who have been affected. Of course, we work on a lot of other people, but my particular interest is homosexuals today. And in 2019, that was October 4th, I was called, we were at a birthday party actually, celebrating and enjoying ourselves, and then I was given a call. A homosexual man in Ginger had been hit on the head with a hammer, and he was in critical condition. I went to Ginger on 5th, he died. I was in the ambulance with him when he died. I carried his body out of that ambulance. I put it on the stretcher, take it to the mortuary. We removed him from the mortuary and took him to his mother's house. And the reason why he died, a neighbor disagreed with him being gay. In November 2019, a young transgender woman was killed in Nansana. How? She was on a boda. She was a bit drunk. She sat on a boda. She held the boda man's waist, I guess, to stop herself from falling off. The boda man stopped somewhere and told her, get off. They put her on the ground with other border guys and they beat her with stones until she died, until she passed out. Then they laid her body on the ground and started riding their motorcycles over her back as a hump. Because she looks like a homosexual and she tried to touch me inappropriately. She might even have tried. I would not laud her for doing that if she tried, but she might have tried. But she's not here to tell us what happened. The worst thing is that the man who led that mob walked to the police station and told them, it is true, and then he walked out. He walked into a police station and said he led the killing of a person, and then he walked out. It took years and money to track him down and force the police to arrest him again and then prosecute him. Why? How is that Ubuntu? How is that African culture? That you will put somebody's child on the ground and ride motorcycles over his back until you liquefy his insides? How is that? How are we dramatizing this? How are we dramatizing homophobia in Uganda? Recently, I handled a case of a young transgender woman who was almost castrated. Two men grabbed her. She was walking on the road. They said that's the homosexual who lives there near the mosque. They grabbed her. They pulled down her pants. They got razor blades and they cut a long line from her anus along her perineum all the way to just over her scrotum up to under her penis, because they said, since you're saying you're a woman, you do not need balls. How is that human? How are we being dramatic when we say that that is cruel? It is targeting of homosexual people for no other reason than existing. Because nobody said that that person had grabbed a child and raped them. Nobody said we found her very busy having gay sex. Nobody said she hit on me and tried to gay sex me. They simply said, you're the homosexual who lives near the mosque, get down. How is that being dramatic? Homosexuals are being targeted. They are under genocide. There's a threat of genocide against homosexuals in Uganda. It is not drama, it is a fact. This is well documented information. Go to the HIRAF website and look at the violations report. It is well documented. No, I am still talking.
Yes.
Let her finish.
Went to.
You
let's
have
go
all
to
the time. I'm giving time to everybody.
And I do not like to be interrupted because I do not interrupt people when they are talking. Let's go to the idea of democracy. And Job, let me begin with this one, because from the notes you're passing around and your excitement, you look like you're about to embarrass yourself by talking about Article 8A of the Constitution.
No,
Article 8A of the Constitution does not provide for the right to health.
I wanted
the specification.
Yes.
It was introduced by the Constitutional Court in the case of Zehad and others versus Attorney General, where we were arguing that the right to health should be part of the constitution and justiciable as such, that we should be able to take the state to court for violating people's rights to health. And the Constitutional Court agreed and said everybody, whoever they are, has a right to health as guaranteed under National Objective and Directive Principle of State Policy number 14B. And that Article 8A says those national objectives and directive principles of state policy apply as part and parcel of the Constitution over which we can sue the government. So yes, we do have a right to health as guaranteed by the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda.
Has somebody
Now
denied
about democracy, no, I am still talking.
Yes.
About democracy. We are saying that democracy is about the majority, but I am saying that democracy, Uganda is actually a constitutional democracy, which is very different from a rule by the majority. The constitutional democratic nature of Uganda requires that we are ruled by the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda.
Yes.
Article 79 says the Parliament has the powers to make law and blah blah blah, only in accordance with the Constitution, only in accordance with principles that do not violate the Constitution. The Constitutional Court of Uganda has said very clearly in the case of Adrian Juko versus Attorney General.
Yes.
That was about the Equal Opportunities Commission. After Parliament sat and debated and for a long time, and they said, you know, if we just say people can go to the EOC, those homosexuals and the like, they will also come. And court read the Hansard, they read that, and they said, to create a law that selects a class of people and creates them as a subclass that is not worthy of protection is unconstitutional, and it is wrong. It is a violation of the basic right to dignity and to a fair hearing. That was the Constitutional Court of Uganda. And about rule by the majority. For example, Andrew Mwenda, for instance, absolutely has earned the right to say whatever he wants to say in Uganda, even when we all hate it. Because, and this was in the case of Andrew Mwenda and Onyango Obo versus the Attorney General, the court said we should all have the right to express ourselves, to say what we want, to feel how we want to feel.
Yes.
And indeed, the protection is most relevant and required where a person's views are opposed or objected to by society or any part thereof as false or wrong. You may not like homosexuals, but you don't have to. You may not love who they are, or how they are having their sex, because that seems to be the obsession of the majority of Ugandans,
Yes.
or how they are loving,
Yes.
but you don't have to. What you do have to is not try to kill them, because they exist. This law talks, when we talk about promotion, this law, at least as it was amended, as it was adopted by Parliament,
Yes.
provides a very wide ground of what amounts to promotion of homosexuality. And Daniel, if this law was signed by the president last night and was supposed to go into effect today, this would be a crime. You would go to prison for 20 years, and this station would have to pay the state 1 billion Uganda shillings, because having this conversation at all is promotion of homosexuality according to this bill. Having this debate is promotion of homosexuality. How is that fair that we are going to legislate and even say, don't talk about homosexuality? I've been in some of those anti-sodomy, I'm not in them, God no, I do not have the emotional energy. But I have friends who are in those anti-sodomy groups, and they show me these messages on their phones once in a while. Do you know how much gay porn is being peddled in anti-sodomy groups? Every day they send a new video of men having sex. I've even seen one of a man having sex with a dog. They are the ones who are peddling homosexuality. They're the ones who are forcing it down people's throat. Homosexuals have never come out and said, oh, here we are. You talk about pride, but have you ever seen a pride parade in Uganda? Gay people do not hold pride parades. There's actually no law that says don't hold a pride parade. But gay people in Uganda do not hold pride parades. We talk about the case in Ginger. Fortunately for you, we are actually involved in that case in Ginger. Those boys did not say any of those words. We have read their statements. Of course, the police enjoys saying that. I do not know where they're getting this information from. Yes, it is true that those
I
boys
hope
made a
you
gay
will
sex
give me
video.
equal
And
enough
that,
time,
yes,
my brother.
they have been
Yes,
having,
everybody will get
they've been having, maybe it's even true that they had a group sex party at some point. But in December of 2020, I remember very clearly when the police raided some house in Chireka or Chira for a sex party. That sex party was not for gay people. It was a very heterosexual sex party. So sex parties are also not a gay thing. They are not a gay problem.
Yes.
There are so many things that we are ignoring when they're done by heterosexuals.
Yes.
But when it comes to gay people, oh my God, the world is about to end. Let's kill them all. Gay people have refused to give birth to children. What about nuns? Are you going to kill them also? Are we going to kill priests because they don't give birth to children? And to be clear, gay people do have children, because when you are gay, just because you are gay does not mean that your biological organs refuse to work.
So why
even
why
if
are
you
they
are a
having
lesbian
children?
woman, you can still have a child.
Justin, we want to move now to,
And let me
Job.
just conclude this about the health perspective.
Yes.
Because that's very important. You know, you keep talking about, of course, I had the conversation about around intersex people and how one system is dominant and another. Intersex people are not intersex because they have a vagina and a penis and a uterus and testes somewhere. Intersexuality is so broad and so wide. It's about physical characteristics, yes. It's about the gonads. It's also about internal chromosomal makeup. So people are intersex.
Which I wanted to understand, because that's my area of specialization.
And if you want to understand it, ask
Yes.
me outside of this program before you debate it without understanding it. This is my major
I know
problem
it.
with anti-homosexuality campaigners.
Yes.
We are debating things we have not taken the time to fully understand.
I have told you I'm a specialist of biology.
Your time is coming.
Let us have a
Your time is
proper
coming.
conversation about intersexuality when we are done here, so that you can understand that people are who they are by nature. They were born that way.
No.
So many
Justin.
homosexuals are celibate.
Yes.
They are choosing not to have sex. But you guys are conflating the
Can I
idea
come-
of
can I come in?
homosexuality with having anal sex. We think that homosexuality is a sexual act. It's one thing you do now and you are homosexual. Homosexuality is not about having sex with a person of the same sex. It's about orientation. It's about saying that this is the person who attracts me the most. That I would look at Job and be like, but I look at Dr. Stella and I'm like, wow, okay, God created. It's not about me having sex with Dr. Stella or even necessarily wanting to have sex with her right now. It's about the fact that she attracts me spiritually, emotionally,
Please.
and
My-
sexually.
Can I
Job,
come?
let me go to Job, but I'm
Yes.
going to direct the conversation a little bit.
Before you direct the
no,
conversation.
you have your notes, so you'll be allowed to respond.
Okay.
Do you know that there are, because your argument at first was about biology?
No, therefore.
Do you know?
like,
Yes. But do you know that there are men that are having anal sex with women, and it's increasing? And before we went to before I came for this, I've done investigations and stories about sex workers in Uganda. And there are many sex workers in Uganda that will list all their services and also include anal sex. And I'm talking about female sex workers.
Yes.
So it is happening. And another thing that I want you to respond to
Yes.
is the things that she says about people being killed.
I'm going to respond to
I
that.
feel that even if we use the Bible, there was a similar issue with the lady that was going to be stoned to death. You know, according to the law, because when the people came to Jesus, I don't like quoting the Bible because I know my listeners are from very many different religions.
Please.
But I'm just going to use that example because many people here on this panel have used it,
Yes.
and I want to pose that question to
Yeah.
you.
Thank you
The
very
woman was, according to the law of that time, she was meant to be stoned to death, and
Yes.
the people came to Jesus and told him
Yes.
that according to the laws of our forefathers,
Yes.
this is what we are supposed to do, and he did something totally different.
Yeah, thank you
so,
very much. Thank
please
you very
respond.
much. First of all, I want to request my sister that debate without emotion.
No.
Like
I
a
cannot.
lawyer, like a lawyer.
Cannot
I have
debate
seen
without
you
emotion
emotional.
Because unlike you, I am not an uninterested party.
So-
This is
so-
our life. This
Are you a
concerns our
homosexual?
lives.
Are you a homosexual?
That is
No,
none of
it's-
your
it's-
business.
again, I
But
say,
do not
we-
ask me
we are
to
not-
be
we are not
The
a-
answer is yes or
We
no.
are not
refuse to
asking
be
personal. We are not asking personal questions, Honorable
They're not
Matua.
answering
Now,
my-
now,
Yeah.
let me tell you.
We are not
Now-
asking personal
okay,
questions.
Thank you
So
very
just
much.
make
Thank
your
you very
submission.
much. But I think it is of the viewers' benefit that when we are here, we debate without emotion.
I don't think that.
And I
Well,
want to assure you, a politician like me has thick skin enough.
Honorable
To
Matua,
dispute emotion.
you need
Now.
to submit.
Let me submit.
Yes.
I told you that homosexuality is official U.S. policy. You ask me something. Look at presidential proclamation made on 31st of May, 2011. Presidential proclamation.
Did that proclamation say that they need
Now,
to depopulate
you wanted
Africa?
you wanted a reference.
Yes.
Now it can be followed.
Yes.
Now I wanted to give information to my brother, and this one, which you push forward, I want to give you that information. To you, to my brother, Mr. Alenyo, I agree with you. Our Attorney General is a very embarrassing person. He did not only embarrass in those two cases, it is the same Attorney General who issued a wrong legal opinion to the effect that he wanted Mr. Biarugaba Richard to be reappointed for 5 years after reaching retirement age, which is illegal. And I will
Kayode
come to
told
that.
me you were going to
a
bring in
moment,
corruption things.
Please, no, look here. I wanted to inform him that besides those one, there's also another case where he has erred. Then to inform my brother about culture. My brother talked about female genital mutilation in Sebei. Whereas Sabini, we are cutting off the clitoris. In Buganda here, they prolong it even longer. Have you seen that? Why have we not complained that the Uganda are doing
No, it was actually the Minister of Ethics and Integrity complained about it and had started a process to actually also to stop the elongation, and the society refused.
No, please, look.
Yes, the society refused. So that one at least will stay. I don't know why the men are smiling. Maybe they're enjoying, but yeah, society refused.
In Uganda, it is
The
many.
society of the Sebei refused and we ignored.
Yes.
So this is democracy and that was what?
It was democracy.
For the Sebei, the society of the Sebei refused.
Patriarchal nonsense going on in
You are
this
taking it.
room.
You are taking
It is good for them. So it doesn't mean
you are taking my time, please.
Yeah, I'm going to now protect Mr. Matua to finish his
You are
time.
taking my.
I apologize.
You are
I
taking
shouldn't
my
have
time,
done that.
please.
I am sorry.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I can defend my rights properly also. Now, I can say that democracy is very important in a civilized society. The majority will always decide how things must go. And human right is not absolute. That it is your human right to penetrate a woman and you go and penetrate a girl on the street there. It is not true. You get me? Uganda, as a sovereign state, has every right to decide how Ugandan society must be like. Why should somebody from outside come to impose on us how we
But
must
are
be?
the homosexuals in Uganda Europeans?
No, look
The
here.
homosexuals in
They
Uganda
are being
are Ugandans.
they are being
also.
incited by NGOs. They are being incited by people paid by the Europeans. They are being programmed. Actually, they are being programmed, reprogrammed. Even somebody who had given birth, who was in the right way, has been reprogrammed, now abandoned, and they still talks about my children. Why did they have the children at first? If it were, they were by nature lesbian or homosexual. You get me? Yes. And by the way, I can say it authoritatively that homosexuality is a deviation from the normal, because I gave a biological detail of it. Dr. Stella Nyanzi wanted to tell me about chromosome. I want to inform her that I'm an authority in biology. Please, I'm an authority. You can't confuse me there. There is no biological evidence anywhere that somebody is born a lesbian or homosexual. Not there. If any, I want it to be produced. If any, it would have been published in the scientific journal. It is not there. Even if there is a chromosome my sister was talking about, chromosome X and Y, that is in sex determination. It has nothing to do about gayism or lesbianism. So my brother want to go to the issue of using English. My sister accused me for using English here. Please, I want to apologize to you. We would be using a national language. I would talk to you in Luganda if I knew Luganda. I am using this language because it's the only way you can hear me. Can I talk Lubara? Will you hear the Lubarati?
I think the point she was trying to present was that we have already received.
The purpose of language is for communication. You get me? And I really apologize to you as a Pan-African. We would be speaking our own African language. It is a part of the colonial distortion. And again, they want to distort us by destroying our family.
I am not.
Okay.
Yes. I'm going on. Please. Yes, it is part of the colonial distortion. Yes. Two, my sister talk about people being killed. That some human beings were being killed. I want to say it here that anybody who killed a human being, whatever that person is, that is wrong. You get me? I condemn that.
Now, let me just a moment. You're still in your time. I want to quote for you
before you quote.
No, because it's on your point.
Yes.
I think section 4 says attempts to commit homosexuality. A person who section 5.
Yes.
Subsection 1. A victim of homosexuality shall not be penalized for any crime committed as a direct result of his or her involvement in homosexuality. And this has been understood by lawyers to mean that if somebody like those people that we are talking about, who say they were protecting themselves from somebody who was a homosexual, they can kill you and nothing would happen.
Can I tell you?
In other words, somebody would come into this room and kill somebody and say this person was trying to touch me in a homosexual way,
my brother,
and that would be a defense. It's in the law of Uganda.
My brother, I want to say
that wouldn't
no,
guarantee
please. Even the death penalty specified in the law, it's not about coming here to cut somebody's head off. No, it is about life imprisonment. Our death penalty is being defined.
No, but you've not answered my question. I've just said that you're saying it's a human right. It's wrong to kill.
I said,
but the law says anybody
Yes.
who is a victim, and the victim is defined in the law.
Yes.
Anybody who is a victim of homosexuality.
Yes.
And defends themselves in any way.
Yes.
In other words, kills, maims, shoots
Yes.
somebody who was trying to perform a homosexual act with them, commits no offense. In other words, the border men who killed the lady
No.
she's talking about are vindicated according to this law. Isn't this going to create anarchy
I
now?
can tell you. Okay.
People will start killing each other and saying this one was trying to touch
We
my
are not
bum.
victims of.
I can tell you.
Maybe you need to read section 5, council, so that you can respond to this later.
I want to insist that people should not kill other human beings. Even when they commit a case, take them to courts of law. The courts will prescribe the right punishment under the law. Please. So if somebody has been killed like that,
It is wrong.
it is very wrong. And I hope they are not allegations.
At least you've agreed on
I
something.
hope they are not
with us
allegations,
now.
which we will follow after here. Because some of this could be sympathy, because Pastor Semper talked of false flags that homosexuals are about to make, to cry loud that we are being killed, our heads are being chopped, and so that they can attract the so-called international community to come and say, you are murdering our people. Please, nobody will be killed, except anybody who commits an offense, which is maximally by death sentence, will go for life imprisonment, which is very okay. I agree with it.
Okay.
Then the issue of sexuality, please, when you are defining sexuality, you say it is very broad. It must not exclude the nature aspect of it, the biology. My brother said homosexuals are by nature. Some about they trying to induce you, who is a man with the penis and the testicles in the scrotum, that you begin to behave like a woman, even if it is by surgery, even if it by injection of extra female hormone or estrogen in your blood. I can tell you, by nature, you are a man. You will never ovulate, and nobody should try to confuse you that you are a woman. So therefore, homosexuality or lesbianism is a deviation from normal. Now I want to underpin the thing, and I want to underpin my argument. Now, if this thing has been existing, Madam Justin, as it has been said, why are we having people funding it? Why don't they fund heterosexuality?
But you know they also fund maternal health.
The second question
they fund maternal health too.
The second question
at
is,
least fair.
who are those funding and in whose interest? That is the political question. In whose interest are they funding?
Okay.
You get me? That is the second question. The third question is, just let us be very basic. You get me? Now, even in America, the USA, which seems to be the policeman of the world, yes. There is a big population that does not support this thing. And actually, Donald Trump, the former president, was against it. It is one of the reasons he was removed, by the way. It's one of the reasons he was removed.
Okay, so there was an argument that was brought by Dr. Stella Nyanzi that group in America that does not support is funding you people to come and pass these laws, and yet you people are also claiming.
In fact, that group is a conservative that does not even want American money to go out. Trump had America first. You get me? So it is a lie. Dr. Stella Nyanzi, we withdraw that lie. She can provide evidence, if any, if it is there. Now, I want to tell you that if she talked about the religious groups that are funding homosexuality or lesbianism, yes, some of these homosexuals, what they did is to integrate themselves in our society. Even they went in churches. You get me? We have some religious leaders who are homosexual. And indeed, they are there to advance the interest of the homosexuals. You get me? Now, finally, you see, I want to rule this, that the human species called Homo sapiens sapien, the survival of this species can only be by procreation. We shall not cut a Justin's arm and it grows into another Justin. Justin must be pollinated and gets a child. That child will replace Justin in the next generation. I'm now biological. You cannot cut my arm and you plant it somewhere and it becomes another mature. I must pollinate, you get me, and produce children who will replace us. Yes. This homosexuality has a danger of extinguishing, of causing extinction of human species. You get me? It is very dangerous, assuming it is universal adopted. Finally, if you realize there are some people who think they are really natural, they are naturally homosexual, let them give me all the biological evidence. I agree with Dr. Nyanzi about the religious thing. Religion is also foreign. But we had our own traditional beliefs here, which we are against the homosexuality. The religion was part of
that. Is that a fact? Because we we have
in my culture.
Dr. Stella
can
just
I tell you?
Dr. Stella Nyanzi just listed for us cultures where it was happening.
Can I tell you something?
And Justin also.
No, I am a Lubara.
Yes.
You get me? 311. You get me? In a Lubara culture, if a man is caught having sex with another man, they put a stone down, they put your penis on top of it, they bang it with another stone. The punishment was very severe. So, in fact, the majority, even what the Baganda were doing, they were doing it illegally. It was not a formal cultural practice. If any, how was it in your clan?
Okay, I want to bring in Dr. Stella Nyanzi now.
My conclusion is that my people, my fellow blacks, please, let's not allow ourselves to be sell out just for silver, for pieces of money that you want to betray us.
All right, let me.
Okay to ask her a question.
Yeah, you can ask her a question because she's speaking next.
Yeah. Now, Madam Stella Nyanzi, njagala kubuuza mu Luganda. Nisiri musajja Muganda naye Luganda nwagala nnyo. Oli Naalongo mulamba. Wazaala n'omukyala munno.
But that's a personal question again. We are not. It is in her discretion to answer that, yes, because it's a personal question. I was not going to take personal questions.
My brother.
So let's have Dr. Stella Nyanzi now speak.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Right, nayanziza nnyo ndi Naalongo nzaala Katone Waswa nzaala ne Kigongo. In other words, I'm a mother of twins in Buganda, and that institution in Buganda is a cultural institution that is protected by the Baganda. We are given sexual license, which several other cultures in Uganda may not revere and uphold. And so, because I am a Muganda, and Job said to us, he's a Lugbara, you are underscoring the very fact I wrote, I spoke about when I started. And I want to turn to what I think his name is Isaac Kayonde said when he quoted to us the memorandum, the first 2 pages, where the objectives or the principles of the bill are mentioned. And good for me, I have a copy of the first version of the bill as it was tabled by Asumani Basalira. I also have the amended version. And part of the principles of the bill, the objectives, Part C talks about protecting the cherished culture of the people of Uganda, legal, religious, traditional, family values, against the acts of sexual rights activists seeking to impose their values of sexual promiscuity on the people of Uganda. So protecting the cherished culture of the people of Uganda assumes that there is one cherished culture of the people of Uganda. As I said, I'm a Naalongo. Even within Buganda, there are particular cultural rituals that are allowed to some clans that are not allowed to others. There are some that are allowed to the Naalongo, which are forbidden by custom to other people who are not Naalongo or Salongo or Ralongo, right? And so when we talk about cherishing culture, it has to be cultures of the peoples of Uganda. We must not assume for any 1 minute that there is one culture, an African culture, an African essence, a Ugandan culture. That is rubbish and hogwash. And I think that minimizing Uganda's diversity must be abhorred by any person who understands the cultures of the people. And I'm an anthropologist. This is my specialization. I want to talk about, again, the example of FGM that was raised in relation to the Sabini people. And I think it was Job who mentioned labia elongation. The World Health Organization classifies 4 types of female genital mutilation. Class 4, right, includes labia elongation, adjustments to the labia, because of reasons around pleasure and women's pleasure. Many Bantu speakers, starting from the Ankole where Museveni is, where Janet Kataha sits, labia elongation is a cherished practice of the people of Uganda who practice labia elongation. We do that. But in the case of the Sebei, infibulation or taking out incision of the clitoris was refused. Cutting of labia was outlawed in Uganda. So when we talk about cultural rights, I think I want to return to the point about the constitution that was made earlier, that the Constitution of Uganda is the Bible, is the leading law, is the principal tool that should be adhered to when parliamentarians are legislating for Ugandans. That's the first point about culture. Dinalongo, Nazala, Nessalongo. I don't have to be a chicken or a cow to fight for animal rights. I do not have to be a forest or a lake to fight for environmental rights. In fact, I do not have to be a child aged 5 or 10 or 17 to fight for children's rights. I'm a human rights defender. I will defend the rights, particularly of minorities, in a dictatorial regime, in a corrupt regime, in a regime that is abducting and taking away Ugandans and disappearing them without bringing them to court. Extrajudicial killings are happening. The third point I want to respond to was that about framing and scapegoating minorities, framing and scapegoating people who express their gender in ways that are not in conformity to the man and female, man and woman, male and female binary polarization between two genders, right? Framing of even those of us who speak in favor. And we had a real live example today when council spotlighted Andrew Mwenda, a freedom of expression champion who sits in the national resistance movement and has eaten and taken sides with Muhoozi. Telling Muhoozi to denounce Andrew Mwenda is assuming that Muhoozi does not participate in homosexual activities. Why do you think that Muhoozi is not bisexual? I want to talk about bisexuality because by and large, when this sort of criminalization happens, there are a number of individuals who will resort to getting heterosexual partners in order to fool you, right? There are a number of individuals who are homosexual men or lesbian women who will then get into marriages in order to please society and community, in order to do away with the law, and they will procreate. Bisexuality is alive in Uganda. There are people who have heterosexual spouses, a husband and a wife and a husband, but they also engage in same-sex relationships. Okay? We have not considered what bisexuality means because we are so focused on anal sex between man and man, right? What about bisexuality? Assuming that Andrew Mwenda is the person arming, how laughable, arming homosexuals with guns, does that make him a homosexual? What does it mean when a lawyer sits on a public panel and begins to frame a Ugandan of means, a Ugandan in the middle class? What will happen to several other Ugandans who do not have the means of protection that Andrew Mwenda has? Many of us have been victimized already, scapegoating and framing of any individual who does not agree with this homophobic rhetoric and discourse is going to happen. It's already happening. We have seen Muslim sheikhs and imams calling for the murder of anybody in their imagination who is outed as a homosexual. You don't have to be caught in the act already. We have had pastors calling for the murders of same-sex loving people. So what does it mean when we get these scapegoats? What does it mean when a law is encouraging and whipping up homophobic hate in society? I want to thank very much Comrade Justine Barrier, who has given us live experiences, even before the passing of the law, of real individuals, Ugandan citizens, your sons and daughters, your brothers and sisters, your fathers and your mothers who are being targeted and murdered because of assumptions that they could be gay. They look a bit gay. I also want to talk about the rule by democracy, rule of the majority. And again, I think it was Justine who highlights that it is constitutional democracy. I was asked about about if the majority have decided, and Daniel highlighted the reign of apartheid, or which we call apartheid in Uganda. Apartheid in South Africa was the dominant form of rule, and black people were oppressed, subjugated, subhumanized, dehumanized even as second-class citizens, because the majority white population in government deemed them an inhuman, a subhuman race. Apartheid was the dominant mode of governance. I live in Germany, and while the apartheid example is common knowledge, we also know about the Nazist Holocaust, right? The majority ruled under very fascist Nazist regime where minorities, Jews, homosexuals, black people were murdered by government. And so rule of majority, I mean, slave trade is another example, apartheid, the Holocaust, those ruled by majority does not necessarily mean that it is right. And I think for me that we have to think carefully about what we are doing as a country. There was the issue around who is supporting what. And I was asked about funding specifically. I was asked to highlight if I know any Americans who are funding the anti-gay lobby. I do, as a matter of fact. Before the 2009 bill was passed in Uganda, we know that Rick Warren and Scott Lively and a bunch, Caleb Banbridge, a bunch of American evangelicals flew to Uganda. I have named 3, right? I could name many more. The ex-gay movement, the neo-colonial right-wing evangelicals from America and Europe have visited Uganda. They have visited the First Family. They have attended the national breakfast. They have spoken to our parliament. They have taken people such as David Bahati and Saba Buturo and the late Lokodo to America and trained them. In fact, what is happening in the case of Robert Kayanja versus a bunch of pastors, Sempa, Malay, Chaze, and others, we know that they were coaching young boys. They were coaching young boys, training them, recruiting them, giving them money and funding to frame another pastor. We know from the case of Elisha Mukasa, who is another ex-gay man walking around Uganda today, going to public stations, that he is being coached and trained and groomed. All the things mentioned in the amended anti-homosexuality bill are being done by the anti-gay lobby in Uganda. And so if anybody is recruiting and training and grooming evangelists for their campaign, there is an anti-gay agenda in Uganda that is heavily funded, okay? And if you want proof, I can actually name even bank accounts where money is being transferred. We know for a fact that Janet Kataha Museveni has given accommodation to Elisha Mukisa, the biggest agent of the ex-gay mission in Uganda today, the misinformant going around parliamentarians and the NGO Registration Bureau, giving them lies And yet we know that this is an ex-convict who in fact defiled. He is convicted. He was in a prison in Uganda. He's convicted for defiling a minor. I want to end on the point of recruitment of children, because it is the biggest form of propaganda that is being used and abused by the anti-gay lobby. Recruitment of children is happening in schools by heterosexual and homosexual teachers under the watch of Janet Kataha Museveni. The education minister is Janet Kataha Museveni. She's responsible of education in our country. Who is doing the recruitment is a question that has to be answered. It is mainly, and I think that Fox Odoi, who is one of the two people who signed the minority report, he quoted from the annual police crimes report, and the biggest percentage of pedophiles, of defilers, of rapists of children in our schools are heterosexual teachers, not homosexuals. Homosexuals are being framed. The biggest mistake that has hyped up so much hatred and animosity in Uganda is this confusion, this misconception, this conflation between the rape of children and adult consensual sex between a man and a man, or a woman and a woman, or transgender people even. And so we must teach Ugandans, we must teach our parliament to differentiate between pedophilia, the abuse of children, the sexualization of children, the rape of children, the defilement of children. We must distinguish this categorically from same-sex consensual agreement by adults. All of us in the sexual rights movement in Uganda are opposed to the rape of children. If Uganda wants to address the defilement and rape of children, the statistics have shown us that thousands of defilers are heterosexual teachers, heterosexual predators. Why then are we focusing on 83, thousands versus 83, just 83 same-sex, non-consensual relationships with minors? If we want to address the recruitment of children, first, we must dispose of Janet Kataha Museveni as the Minister of Education. It is her responsibility. Secondly, we have to look at heterosexual defilement, which is catered for in the laws already, right? Instead of scapegoating a minority group of same-sex adults who choose to love differently from us. Thank you very much, Daniel.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Stella Nyanzi. Now, we want to move back to Kayonde. Isaac, there is a challenge in the law. Justin just told me that if this law was passed yesterday without my knowledge, if the president signed it today, I will be picked together with the entire staff and producers of 24/7 who produce this show. Is it right to criminalize media also for airing alternative views? Because that's what we do always. We are always airing the underdog's view. We are actually told to be the voice of the voiceless. Now, in this anti-homosexuality debate, because homosexuals in Uganda are a minority, it looks like they are the voiceless, and therefore we have to give them a microphone. Your say on that.
Well,
but you can also respond to Dr. Stella Nyanzi's
a lot has
comments.
been said, and a lot has been directed to me personally. I will first address Justine and Stella Nyanzi. Stella Nyanzi talked about me quoting culture. I was very clear from the word go that the arguments for culture, religion, and all that, I wasn't bringing my arguments based on those things. I was talking about the society of Uganda that is governed by the Constitution of Uganda. And that is where I was focusing. I was not quoting Bible verses, I was not quoting tribal practices.
You are quoting the Bible of Uganda, which is the Constitution.
The Constitution.
Good.
And I was talking in that regard, right? So if we directed this argument or this discussion around the Constitution, I think then you would see the voice of reason in understanding where we, the majority, come from, right? So I in the words of Andrew Tate, I don't know whether you know that guy.
Yes.
I'm not anti-gay, I'm not anti-homo, I'm not anti-anything. You get? Phobia is a fear. I don't fear none of them. What I am anti is you subjecting your world view, your minority view on us, the majority. I'm anti you feeding my child with knowledge that he can be anything he wants to be and do anything. I am anti those things. I'm anti-ideological about it, right? Now, to address Justine, Justine was talking about cases and she was very emotional about it. And I was very emotional, and I was watching her, and I could honestly, genuinely feel the pain and emotion in it. I don't have to be gay to understand what she's describing, right? But in the same light, I will tell you that there are numerous cases that you look at, child with ruptured anuses and all that, but if I was to also submit those cases to her, I hope she would also feel my emotion. Exactly. You get what I'm saying? But because
and the more so if it is your child.
That is
Job, please let's have Isaac.
Most
and
obliged.
because we are discussing societal issues devoid, I mean, which represent all of us in our different cultures, in our whatever. As a society, for example, she talked about female genital mutilation and elongation. You get? As a society of Uganda, we feel like elongation, whether you are Nacholi, Sabini, whatever, I think we are okay with this. But what we are not okay with is cutting it. A minority thinks that. But the majority, we are saying, cutting, you're going beyond. Get it? So, it's not a it's the society I'm talking about here that we are looking at. And very clearly, in our female genital mutilation laws, we are very specific about the female genital mutilation we're talking about. We're talking about cutting. The UN may have elongation and whatever, but we are very clear. Ours is very clear. What we are dealing with is just cutting. If you're elongating and smearing black things all over it, that's okay. You know? That's okay.
Yes.
So, for me, I wanted to correct Stella Nyanzi that I wasn't talking about her cultural thing. I mean, and the other thing is, the labeling, yeah, of people, and especially now, I am fully aware. I am not of the same school of thought that because you defend homosexuality or gay people, you must be gay. No, I am not that petty or that fickle. You know, what I am saying, she has a right to believe, to fight for what she believes in. That's okay. She has that right, right? But she should not also label us homophobes, homo this, homo that, anti-gay, I mean, we are all these things. In the same light, she's accusing us of calling them gay, whether you're calling Andrew Mwenda or whoever is defending their rights. We are saying, okay, even us, we are not irrational. We are presenting a rational argument
In
to
emotional,
you know,
Job,
so for me, those were the things which were addressed to me. She talked about how the anti-homo, they are, you know, funding people. Elijah Mukisa, I don't know, is he Elijah Mukisa?
Elisha.
Yes, Elisha. Really, again, like I said, it's just like how we come and say Sam Manini now yesterday was trending and everything, and we have seen people claiming they are gay and they get visas and stuff. I mean, they may be the minority. I don't know, but it's not out of. I don't know how I can say it, but it's not unheard of people using this as
In
a
fact,
way to do whether it's criminal activity or anything.
Mr. Diasamba Ferez, who used that thing to sneak outside Uganda. I even have one who's disturbing me to get a visa under that.
Under that, okay. So to deliberate Elijah Mukisa's experience as a person, he has gone through this and he's putting out his story. That's okay. We should, you know, let him say that.
But we should also then let the gay people also have their right to speak, to
but
lay out their stories.
What I am saying,
Because that's fairness now.
what I am saying, as a society, the gay movement, first of all, has us right where they want us. that every weekend or every so often we engage in this debate, and people like Justin bring their emotional argument into it, and yes, you will get buy-ins. As progressively, you will get buy-ins. But what we are saying, what we are discussing is law. We are discussing nature versus nurture. We are discussing things. Let me give you an example about why laws are necessary, or why programs are necessary to deter something that you have seen in future. Matua here was talking about population control, right? And it comes in so many spheres. Let's look at the example of AIDS. When AIDS came, there was a policy which was adopted. I think it was the ABC or something like that. Abstinence.
Be faithful and condom use.
And use of condom. Yeah.
You see, because there was no medicine for it, there was something which was advocated: behavioral change. Behavioral change was what they used to curtail AIDS, because one, there were no medicine. Did they say stop having sex? Maybe not. But the behavior here, when we were faced with COVID, it was a thing of behavior. Please be hygienic. Do this, do that. Change your behavior. Wash your hands. So what we are saying is that we are foreseeing a crisis in this country, a crisis where once it becomes a normal, for example, then it becomes, like you said, a health right, for example, to have what do you call it? All kinds of treatment around this vice, whether it's a vice or not, sex. So once we take out this argument of again, like I said, the argument has been vulgarized around sex, right? And if you vulgarize the argument around sex, you get again you might miss it, right? It might be essential to what the homosexuals do in one way, but again, it's not as petty as that. The other thing I want to address,
as you wind up,
as I wind up, I mean, she talked about the right to love, you get, or to love who you are, and again, this word has been thrown around. Who defines love, and how do we define love? So okay,
it's defined by the person who is in love, isn't
agreed.
it?
So
yeah.
Does it mean that if
I could love my tree, like I know people who love their forests and whatever.
For men loving each other in one house, is that a greater love? Do you get what I'm saying?
What is the essence of that love?
No, for me, it's if we get into that space of saying, okay, no, this is love. So for men, imagine we live in one house. Oh, we love each other. So this is the ultimate love, that you must love up to that point. So you see, those are things which are neither here or there. So if society has defined things like marriage, for example, to mean one man, one woman, and the society.
But I don't believe our society has defined marriage to be one man,
one
woman. Maybe one man and women.
Yeah,
that's what our society. For in the Ugandan context.
I'm giving an example.
Okay.
And I'm giving an example that you see in our laws, we don't outlaw polygamy.
Yes.
You get it? We do it. In the West, they do.
They do, yes.
Right? Their society has allowed it.
Exactly.
You get it? It has allowed it. Okay, let them have it.
Exactly.
Right? Nobody is crying for human rights there.
Okay, so I want to move to council now.
The other thing, again, an emotional. I really wanted to address the politics of this bill. The politics. She talked about it, whether it was diversionary and everything. First of all, we are yet to see whether President Museveni will sign this. Because the day before, President Museveni was talking about, okay, we can have this discussion.
If a group of politicians, passed the law, he as chief politician will have to pass the law because, again, as you said, majority.
It will depend.
And he also needs the majority in 2026.
It will depend because for him as president, he has to contend over so many things, right? He has to contend over
sanctions, economy.
Sanctions, he has the economy. I mean, and we are getting.
Where are we going to sell our coffee?
We were recovering. We were trying to recover out of this COVID thing, and then whether we need donor funding or not or whatever, he has to contend with all these things before it becomes law. So we are not discussing. It is not yet law. There are still forces like the Stella Nyanzi are still pushing. From wherever they are. They're putting in effort, whether to curtail whether to curtail donor funds or whatever.
As you wind up, somebody wrote on Twitter and said that President Museveni is going to sign this with a pencil, just so he can easily rub it, because he will sign it with a pencil so that the public says, okay, like 2014, our president signed it, and then send a group of NRM lawyers to court to remove the law. And
so let's wait and
Start
see
after.
how that
The law will be signed in the bill will be signed
with a pencil or a pen.
a pen and in
Okay.
and in a camera.
Let me bring
And in the camera.
Council.
finally.
Council, how do you implement this law? You know, a law that is talking about landlords. How is police now going to be going room by room checking? A law that talks about promotion in the media. What is Uganda going to do about the biggest consumption of media coming from out of Uganda? Because most of the media being consumed right now is TikTok, which is international. It is Facebook, Twitter. It is Netflix. It is DSTV. So what is the government of Uganda going to do about those? Because they can police the TV stations in Uganda. They can police 24/7 here because we are based in Uganda. But they cannot police DSTV. They cannot police Netflix. How do you implement such a law? How do you even police YouTube? Because there's gay content there. What are you going to do? That's one of the questions that has been asked of Parliament. Isn't this law just going to remain on the books somewhere, but as an unimplementable law? And there are many of those in Uganda, by the way.
Mr. Moderator, I'm split between your 5 questions you have asked and my own. But you are the boss here. I would like to very quickly reply to you.
Yes.
Number 1, you said implementation of this law. I'm one of the people who began to collect signatures in this country to force this law to be back in Parliament. And we cautioned and we've said, we've written them to the President that this is going to be one of the laws which, if not well funded and if not well put in a framework, will remain idle. We have a very good law, the Pornographic Act. You see that law, if it had been funded by government, it was put in 2014. But the President, Museveni, has never given any money, any coin, to the Office of the President Directorate, Department of Ethics and Integrity. They have cried to us. Now, and the President, actually I must use a harsh word, is confusing himself on the issue of nature and nurture.
How so? What do you mean?
This matter, I tell you, my brother, homosexuality is not natural. I've been in this matter 20 years investigating, but I've never seen a homosexual, either a homosexual supporter or promoter of their rights, who naturally is a homosexual. I've never seen. If you have ever seen, and be very cautious. If you have ever seen, everyone you see says, I'm not a homosexual, or I left. Look at Narombo Angoyo Mulonji. She's a real Mumbeja. You can see from the eyes the beauty. She's telling you.
Who should be pollinated to produce another
She's telling you.
If Nalongo's personal,
I'm appreciating her. When you go personal and you appreciate it. Nalonga sold us very well. Azalane Chigongo. I see. So she is not a natural.
But she also said you don't have to be a forest to advocate for environmental rights.
That's why I'm saying I've never seen a homosexual. She's Justin, my brother, sister here, equally beautiful. She has a child. That child was not by homosexual relations, I bet. So, all these people promoting homosexuality are hypocrites. And they are produced through the normal channel, and they are confusing our children about the abnormal channel.
To add, they have some interest. They don't declare the public.
Job, please.
Now, implementation of this law, we have suggested to the president, if he cannot fund this law, and that's, by the way, the president may sign and not fund. He will also have killed
Again,
the law.
signing with a pencil.
Yes, signing with a pencil, he will have killed the law. Why? All the friends of the president are actually going to plead with him not to sign this law. He went recently to South Africa.
Yes.
to bring in
EFF, the economic freedom fighters,
Exactly.
have already written a
Have already
statement
written.
against the law.
And I bet the president is going to listen. Why? DSTV, which has got very incriminating content.
Do you think that the president refuses to sign these things because of his own? Because we know his own convictions. He has
Yes,
echoed them.
yes, yes.
But is it because of his own convictions or it's because of the country?
He's going to refuse. He's even now, because even now it's too late.
Because Isaac told us he puts into consideration a lot of things as president.
Exactly, about a
As,
community.
as president, he knows what is on the bank account of Uganda.
Exactly. So,
And there could be zeros.
And
You see what I don't
Yes.
want.
I'm coming to your point.
What I don't want is
no,
for us
wait.
to accept evil in the name of receiving aid.
Exactly.
To hell with those
But-
aids. I'm telling you, to hell.
Let's-
We can do without those
That's
aids.
where we have
To
to be-
I'm telling you, to hell with those aids.
Understand.
Yes.
Job is okay at your time.
You are a-
We,
you are a-
we cannot surrender our sovereignty
Let me give you another paper so you can take some more notes.
for sin. No, my brother.
Take some more
Listen.
notes there.
Yes.
Yes, Council, continue, please.
Job, a peasant in my village, Bukwere in Bakwati.
Yes.
A peasant like you
Yes.
in Arua.
Yes.
Well, you do not have the same weight on the president
Yes.
like the weight on the president about this bill.
Yes.
Because for you,
Yes.
it's about how to talk. You're against. And the president has mentioned and talked and said he's against. Not so? The president has come out, he's against. But what is going to fail is here where you have raised the first question, on the implementation. We have in this country, the people president has brought in as investors. Okay?
Yes.
And those are the same people bringing these values. Do you know that every investor here who comes with his money first seeks protection from the laws of the country? We have the case of Aya investors who went wrong against the girl.
Yes.
Do you know that how they were protected and that case died? Even as we talk about homosexuality here, all these investors, they have an assurance and protection from the highest level.
Doesn't that then prove that Uganda is not in a vacuum anymore?
Exactly.
That
So
we are in a globalized world, therefore.
I'm giving you an example.
So that brings up the question that Justin was asking:
Let-
whose culture and whose norms
Let
are we
me
talking
come, let me
about?
come. Two, do you know that as you have said biologically, homosexuality is not possible between a man and another man, except with lubricants. Now, Uganda government, under an agreement with the USA, and this is documented, actually the lubricants homosexuals have been using in Uganda since 2009 has been imported under Ministry of Health, MAPI Clinic. See, so we are going. The English say
That's why I'm
the
saying
taste
this is
of
the
the
new
food
imperial and the
is
new
the-
colonial agenda.
But
Can you not confirm that?
My question is,
Yes.
whose ministry of health is this? Because you're talking about imperialism and
Yes.
white people. This is our own ministry of health.
Yes.
Is the minister of
It's
health
the
European?
Minister of Health.
This is President Museveni, your
Yes.
chairman of the
Yeah.
party. So you
That's-
cannot keep saying that it's
Yes.
coming from the West.
And that's what I also tell you this. I also
Yes.
want to tell you this. You see, you know.
So maybe the Ministry of Health has understood something that we have not yet
When you
understood.
written to them in writing, this MAPI clinic, check all over Uganda. There are MAPI clinics. These are people. You know, the homosexuals.
Again, accusations. Counsel.
Not accusations.
You should not accuse people who cannot defend. Accuse anybody
Do you
here.
know what-
You have five panelists that you can accuse, including myself.
MAPI clinic is not a person. MAPI clinic are clinics which the government established in all hospitals under the American sponsorship and funding, and they provide the so-called health to homosexuals. And in the process, lubricants.
They distribute
surgeries,
lubricants.
My
Yeah.
my question now to you would be: don't all Ugandans deserve to get health? But also, I think you have not
Yeah,
yet
I'm
touched
coming
your
to you.
points.
I'm
You're still
coming-
responding to my questions, but
Yes,
you haven't yet reached your point, and yet your time is coming is coming to an end.
Yeah, it is you who has given me this. Now, Section 5.1. I tell you, the media houses should not be in a panic about 5.1. You know, like what you did when I mentioned about Andrew Mwenda. You gave me the
camera.
attention, the camera, to say these are not your words. You just become professional. When you host a person, you're not going to know what he's going to say. At the end of the show, and at the beginning of the show, say the words people are going to say here are not our words, and the opinions are not ours, and say it at the end. You're protected. Now,
Okay.
it comes. So, and Section 5.1, You see, if Justin, you see, that's why these of the Justins are very careful. Have you heard them saying they are homosexuals, promoting the agenda? No. They are saying we are promoting the rights of some other people with their right to do it. Not there. So don't be worried about that.
So but what about the environmentalists?
Then
we could now start accept allowing trees to go to court and
but
fight for the environment.
So
But-
media,
but
you raise
you
a very
need-
important matter.
Yes, I
about
want you
media.
to raise your points because you had taken notes.
Yeah.
I want you to
let me just
I think you wanted to
let me
respond
say
to
in
Dr.
minutes,
Stella
no?
Nyanzi.
You raised a very important matter about the media, TikTok and like Facebook.
Yes.
President has stopped, blocked Facebook and the rest. There's a very important matter here. In the implementation of this act, unless we control international media, we are wasting time.
But you can't control international media.
That's what I'm telling you.
That is, we don't have control.
But
over
what
that.
we can do, but no, a country like Hungary, you can never access pornographic material. But here in Uganda, there's just idle talk. You can access it. And you know, when there is no pornography, this homosexuality thing stops. Because they need to train children
To
how to do it.
disorient you.
Yes, they
in
need
those-
to train.
eh?
They need to
Yeah.
send photos.
Yes.
You see, it is not natural. So now let me come to my point. God himself, you see, unfortunately I'm a Christian. You could
Yeah,
get this.
yes.
God himself gave the homosexuals their rights. It is in Deuteronomy chapter 30, 15. God says, yeah, read
Council, I
it.
want you to be sure not to contradict yourself.
No, wait.
Okay,
He
go ahead,
says,
please.
Deuteronomy 30, 15. I set before you today life and death. Okay? Choose life. God knew that choosing homosexuality is choosing death. And as Hyundai said, but then he says, and that's what Sodom and Gomorrah was about. The mere trying to attempting to put it on others, those angels. That's what we are fighting here. Even here in Uganda,
Yes.
nobody, let me tell you, nobody is fighting Andrew Mwenda from having sex with whatever he wants. But we are fighting Andrew Mwenda trying to send this thing down on our children. In the nursery schools, there's a video running around here. Nursery schools being initiated and taught. You've seen the video. I tell you this battle, if we stop them from passing it on to others, the vice will end. That's why Homosexuality Act of this one which has been passed, 2023, is about transmission, pushing it on others. While the old Penal Code Act was targeting the person doing it, you had to literally stand in the bedroom and to see the person penetrating the other for you to succeed in court. That's why if you compare the conviction rate under the old Penal Code Act, very few, the whole Uganda, I don't think 50 people were convicted since the law began in 2023 in Uganda. But under this new act, we are going to even have churches closed.
Yes.
Churches are going to close.
Yes.
Churches are going to close.
Media houses too.
Media houses are going to close. Law firms.
Yeah, my question to you was,
Yes. Because
when you close the Ugandan media houses,
Yes.
what control do you have over Netflix? What do you have? What kind of control do you have? That's why I'm asking.
Netflix.
Because you can come and close 24/7, but it would be unfair to me to close my channel because of purported promoting homosexuality, and you leave DSTV on, and you leave Netflix on, you leave YouTube on.
Yes.
So maybe we close YouTube. We can become a North Korea of the sorts,
I want-
and just close everything up.
That
could work.
brings me to the
It would-
point.
couldn't that
so
work?
we would become a what? A North Korea of the which means North Korea closed, not so?
Yes.
So why doesn't Uganda close?
Yes,
It
maybe
is
let's-
possible for a country to close.
Yes,
Why?
let's become a North Korea.
And let me give you the example.
I would
give you the answer.
Yes.
Uganda Communications Commission has been so much failing and letting down Ugandans because they have the capacity to close these channels,
Yes.
and they have not closed. They have only closed one after somebody wrote to them. So if this law, if they are to be serious with this law,
We should become North
we
Korea.
should be closing.
I want to tell you about signing the law by the president. I want to tell you about signing the law by the president.
Job, it's not your time. Please take notes.
It is in line with his submission.
No, unless Justine accepts you to give that point of information.
Accepted?
Tell us when you're wrapping up.
Yes?
No, you will tell us when you're wrapping up. I'd like to wrap this up also.
Okay, Justine?
As I expected, of course, we are about to agree to disagree and leave this conversation where it is with you gentlemen. It has been very nice. But still, I have had so much. I want to just emphasize this one last time. Homosexuality is not the same as child sexual abuse. There has to be a difference. If you told me stories of children who have been sexually abused, and I do know some myself, I would be feeling the same degree of emotion as a human being. Because child sexual abuse in all its forms, let me tell you, I am not saying that homosexuals are perfect human beings who cannot abuse a child. A gay man who abuses a child and causes the kind of damage you're speaking of must absolutely rot in prison. They should go to prison. They should serve their debt to this society. But to say that two adult men who decide in the privacy of their own bedroom, because heterosexuals are not allowed to shag on the street, but nobody has ever caught a gay couple shagging on the street either. If they had caught them, they would be in prison. You say that there have been less than 50 convictions for having kind of knowledge against the order of nature. I'm going to correct you and say there have been none for consensual same-sex sexual relations. Since this law passed in 1950, we have done the research. There hasn't been a single conviction. The only few convictions that we know for a fact have happened, including the conviction of people like Mukisa Elisha, were cases where they sexually abused either a child or another person against his will so that there was a complainant. What is the purpose of criminal law? These things where we said that all the laws are very harsh and all those things, of course, harsh criminal laws are important. When we have some harm to protect people from, there always has to be a concept of harm. Don't kill your neighbor because that is harm to your neighbor. Don't drive on the road shoulder, you will kill a pedestrian. That is harm. Justine, don't have anal sex with your boyfriend because what? When I have anal sex with my boyfriend, who dies? Or when I have sex with my girlfriend, who dies? Who have I harmed? Am I having this sex in front of a child? Because if I am, absolutely punish me for that. That is indecent exposure of this child. That's a bad thing, whether it is heterosexual or homosexual. If I am making a book, because I've seen these videos, the videos you're talking about children's material in nursery schools, showing homosexuality and all those things, I've seen some of those videos, and I'm just going to begin by saying I actually doubt some of them, because I have seen, for example, a video that says that in the diary of a wimpy kid, there are scenes where they're teaching children how to have sex and how to have gay sex. I have read the diary of a wimpy kid 4 volumes with my son. I have read them to him. That is a lie. There might be books, that's true. There might be books that have inappropriate child material, and they should be banned, because the sexualization of a child for any reason is wrong.
Whether heterosexual
or homosexual. But some of these things, we are working with public hysteria that is being raised by lies. So I want to say child sexual abuse in all its forms should be fought. It should be abolished. There are shows that are for children should be properly curated to avoid inappropriate content reaching children. Books that are for children should be properly curated. Now that I've seen all these videos, even I myself am now cautious about the books that my children read. I check the books they get from the school library, because God forbid, just in case that video is actually right, my child stumbles across inappropriate information and I'm not there to guide him. But equally, I sit down with my child and I talk to him about the possibility of sexual abuse by both men and women. Because yes, heterosexual child abuse is a very, very common, it's the most common problem. But homosexual child abuse is also not entirely unnecessary. But what I am saying, the attempt to criminalize consensual adult sexual activity of any kind, and I'm going to go ahead and say including sex work, between 2 adults who agree and have sex on their terms and move away happily, having achieved their best orgasms of their life.
I think the sex work thing has failed, because I tweeted 1 week ago and said the sex workers stand on the roundabout of Parliament, the same Parliament that outlawed them.
Absolutely.
They stand over there and they're enjoying, because there is no law that prohibits somebody from dressing well and standing on the road, because we have liberty. And then there is no law that refuses anybody to sleep with anyone they want, regardless of whether they pay or anything.
But we have
that's what
Had my sister
We
submitted
have
so that
criminalized
Please,
prostitution,
please.
that's true.
And
But
that's the thing.
so the thing about
let her finish.
prostitution is illegal,
let
but
her finish.
it's happening because, again,
Let-
as I
let-
said,
let her
the law is
finish.
unimplementable.
Let
I
her
hear this
finish.
thing about how people are saying that the gay movement
Yes.
is keeping this conversation alive in our minds and shoving their ideas down our throats and all those things. I want to say very specifically, I have told you before about the anti-sodomy groups and what they are doing.
Yes.
Nobody for me, I am part of groups that are for community activists, where we are looking at how do we work better towards improving the right to health, right to dignity, privacy, respect for the basic human existence of LGBT people. I have never seen so much as a single penis picture in any one of those groups. But every time I pick up a phone of a friend who is an anti-sodomy group, there is a video, there is a photograph, I am in a WhatsApp group with my OGs, very old women who I went with to school in Maryhill, and we have been having this conversation for a long time that every time this conversation dies down on the group, somebody else, who is not me, never me, brings it back to the group. Guys, have you seen homosexuals? Oh my God. And then they post a very inappropriate video. And then they all begin bashing. And when I join in and say, guys, please calm down. These are human beings we're talking about. Oh, now you see, she's spreading homosexuality. I come up on that group to discuss this topic like once a month. Actually, I've been there since August last year and I've only discussed it twice. But every time I say something that is pro-gay rights, oh, you're promoting. But meanwhile, they don't let themselves rest. Every week they post something. Every week they post
So
something.
so maybe we should say that even those who post, or even those who post anything in the guise of trying to be anti-homosexual should also fall under that clause of promoting.
They are covered. I am going to read it to you when I am wrapping up.
Yes,
So
they are covered.
the gay movement is not spreading any gay agenda. The gay movement is asking for, if we want to call it that, they're only asking for their basic right to exist, live in their houses, sleep with the people they want to sleep with or not sleep with people, go to church, go to school, eat their food and go to sleep.
I have
It
one
is
question.
a
I don't know if
very
my sister
simple-
could allow me
ask
ask
me when it's
her
your time.
about
It's
it.
It's a very, very
as you
simple
wrap up,
request.
as you wrap up. We want to close the show. The show has been very long this time.
We are saying that promotion of homosexuality shouldn't bother media houses. It should. The section is not 5. It's clause 11, 2. I think that's 2B. Anybody who knowingly advertises, publishes, prints, broadcasts, distributes, or causes the advertisement, publication, printing, broadcasting, or distribution by any means, including the use of a computer, information system, or the internet, or any material promoting or encouraging homosexuality, or the commission of an offense under this act, or the normalization of prohibited conduct. You have said that having these conversations is normalizing the problem. And because this is so broad and it is weirdly defined, it is very, very easy to say what we are doing right now. It is promotion under clause 11(2)(b) of the Anti-Homosexuality Act. So, and you talked about the funding, that if the president doesn't
But
fund it,
Asuman Basaliro was at Makerere yesterday on Friday, and he was having a debate about the anti-homosexuality bill, and from your definition, if this law had been signed on Thursday after he passed it on Tuesday, he was going to be in jail
he would
today
have committed
because
a
he was
crime.
normalizing and discussing homosexuality.
Now you see that, that's the
Yeah,
thing,
you see
see?
that. So the selective application now
The
comes
selective
in.
application of it all is the
Because
challenge that
himself,
we're
he was
having.
debating homosexuality at Makerere. I remember in the law school on Friday.
And this also covers professional practice. If I am a researcher who researches and writes on gay rights, as I am, I cannot write a book that says, give them access to condoms. Give homosexual people the right to enjoy safe sex. Give homosexual people their right to liberty. Do not arrest them. I would be committing
Is
a
it
crime
allowed
because I am
under the
publishing-
law to at least publish that opinion?
The law says I shouldn't publish
and
such
petition
an
Parliament?
opinion.
Is it allowed?
The law says I shouldn't publish an opinion or have any conversation that seeks to normalize.
So even petitioning Parliament is not allowed now.
I would be seeking to normalize homosexuality, and that would be a criminal offense according to this bill.
I come in?
So we are saying,
as you
we are
wrap-
saying
as
that
you wrap
this
up.
bill needs that you said that the president should fund this because he didn't fund the anti-pornography bill, and that then it never got implemented and all those things. That the Pornography Control Committee was not funded. I disagree. We were in Parliament before the Committee on Legal and Parliamentary Affairs with Pastor Semper, and he told us, and I quote, I was a member of that committee, but I had to resign because I tell you the truth. It was about eating money. We were just eating money. Which money were they eating if the president didn't give it to them? They have the money. But also the finance ministry has told us this bill has no financial implications. It will be implemented within the existing machinery.
So there is no money.
But to close and to close this completely, please do not confuse homosexuality with child sexual abuse.
All right.
It is the thing that is driving this hysteria.
All right.
Once we draw that distinction, we can all come down and have a conversation without all my emotion.
Job Richard Matua,
thank
Dr.
you very
Stella
much.
Nyanzi, then Isaac Kayonde, and then we close. We've really gone we've gone over time, and there are so many questions on Twitter.
Yes.
I will try to find a way. I think I'm going to ask Sharon, one of my producers, to get me a phone so I can read some of the comments. There are so many people asking for microphones, but we can't
I don't know if
give them microphones. There you go.
First of all, I want to thank you very much for bringing this debate. I want to inform our viewers and the listeners that I am an acid-tested and award-winning Pan-Africanist. And consistent with my political ideology and modus operandi of a better Uganda for all, I want to draw a conclusion. One, about signing of this bill into law. It will be signed. I want to tell you
With a pen or a pencil.
If
The
the
2014 one was signed
Please,
with a pencil.
listen to me. I don't think there is any signing with a pencil. That one is your only creation. The bill will be signed into law. If the state was against the bill, then the cabinet minister will not be free to debate it. The bill will be signed into law, and anybody who goes to court will never annul this bill, this law, and the law will be in existence, and it will protect our society of Uganda. Two, if the president refuses to sign under pressure from the evil Western world, I want to repeat evil Western world, because me and you fought with them in the African war in Ethiopia.
Yes, we agreed on
At least we fought together.
Yes.
You saw how the leader of democracy, USA, wanted to overthrow a democratically elected government. The evil West, if they intimidate the president, the bill will come back to parliament, and there is a provision within the constitution that if it goes back to the president for the second time, it will go into a law without the signature of the president. And the people of Uganda will defend the law at all times because they are the majority. Three, about the issue of Western influence in Africa. Please, we are tired of this. Every time these people think that they are the one who knows the right thing for us. Please, we are saying no. You came and confused us during the previous pre-colonial era, colonial era, and you cannot continue. You must stop here. We have taken a decision that this is wrong. If the homosexuals here feel uncomfortable, Madam Justice, help process for them visa. Let them go to those world. Yes, let them go if they are threatened to be safe. Let them go to the safe haven. You get me? Then, four, the issue is this. Homosexuality is not by nature, whether it is an adult or not. I waited for you to debunk my biological explanation. Anus is for excretion of undigested food material. It is not to insert penis there. Penis is to be inserted in the vagina. It has the structural formation to withstand the abrasion. So don't tell me that somebody is immature and can accept to go against the nature and we should say it is normal. There is no absolute right. That is abnormality, and we want to tell you, even if you are adult, that you are doing a wrong thing. It is within our right. It is within our social right to correct you and accept it. So homosexuals are deviation and they must accept. And I want to look into the camera and tell them, please, we are ready to rehabilitate you. You have been disoriented by the evil imperial Western world people, and we want to really reorient you to normal. And I believe it is very possible to reorient them. Then to you, my friends who are in the media, don't sell it out. Yes, I know my people, especially when it comes to some section of some people in Uganda. Yeah, when it comes to money, somebody can even sell a child just for money. We would rather die poor than your AIDS. I can tell you, Uganda gives more money to America than America gives Uganda in the name of aid. Can I tell you why? You go to American embassy, look at the amount of money people pay to access the visa. How many are declined? Compute it for a year. In fact, Ugandans, they pay more money in American embassy in the name of getting a visa than what America gives Uganda. Then they come and tell us they are giving us money. To hell with your money. Take the money.
I think Honorable Matua, you're also getting now emotional.
I'm not emotional. I'm telling you this.
These figures will be challenged.
Please.
You know, people are listening, including
my brother,
including people from the Ministry of Finance.
I can tell you, go and do research. Are you with me? compute the amount of money Ugandans pay in the name of accessing visa, and then compute with what Uganda received in 5 years from USA under USAID. You get me? So therefore, I want to tell you, the Western world, even if you think you want to deny for us those donations, we have options. We have China, we have Russia, we have allied power with whom we can work and promote humanity. To hell with you and with your aid.
All right. Thank you very much, Job Richard Matua.
Let us be very clear.
I want to open to read some comments from
my brother. Without those aids, we will even do much better.
Absolutely.
Okay, I don't know where to swipe. Just
do we import food from USA?
Okay. I want to ask somebody to help me open this phone.
I had one question for my sister.
Yeah, I have.
I don't know if you can answer.
I have many questions on.
I had one direct question to my sister. If you can permit me to allow that.
Maybe you'll ask after the show.
No, it's very important for discussion. My question is, since you defend homosexual rights, do you know of homosexuals who are there by nature?
Okay.
Every
you can
homosexual that I know is a homosexual because that is just.
Is that the nature or the nurturing?
That is who they are. That is how they were born. That is how they have grown up. That is who they are.
The question is it
I
by
have
nature?
actually sent the proof you were asking to Daniel. I have sent you the articles, the medical journal articles about all your homosexuality and nature. And by the just to be clear, I'm going to go ahead and say everything that your body can physically accomplish. It is natural. Enjoy it.
Okay, so I have some questions. No, not questions really. Comments from social media. Joan at Joan AFC says, "Why is that man angry? Can't he make his points minus shouting?" I don't know which man. I have 4, including myself. So maybe one of them. Maybe it's myself. Ronnie says, "Hey there." Hilda Koryang, yes, it's natural. Sexual differentiation of the genitals and of the brain before a child is born is hugely influenced by sex hormones. This was experimented on rodents, a large group of mammals. She puts research here from the New York Times and genetic and hormone control of brain from sciencedirect.com. It's a paper. I want to encourage my panelists to go to to Twitter and read some of these. I love her take on the Bible not being African culture. That is Josh Gray. Mr. Mani Erisa is just smiling. Wafuba Woma, there are so many. I'm just going to read a few. I think we may start. Brother Lutaya. I think he was telling us to start. The Parliament of South Africa was not representative of the majority view in South Africa. Badil Patel. Mr. Follow Back, deep down, she knows the truth. I don't know who. There are 2 she's here, including our producer Sharon. So there are 3. Sechoya Hakim, we shall not the Western culture if Western in Uganda. I do not understand what you mean, Hakim. I do believe that your language is not straight. No pun intended. Awesome. Ellie says, what's not happening? Useless Uganda says, any baby from gays? Okay. Age appropriate material, spot on. Hilda. We are born male and female biological by Mr. Mani Erisa. There are so many, so I'll not go through all of them, but thank you very much everybody who is listening online on Twitter Spaces and those who are watching on YouTube. I want to go to Dr. Stella Nyanzi in her final remarks and also as she responds to the people here.
Right. Thank you very much, Daniel, for a wonderful debate. I want to highlight that I too am an African. I'm a Pan-African. I am an radical queer African feminist. I believe in Ubuntu, which is a philosophy that says I am because we are. I also want to say, as a Ugandan born in Uganda, living in exile, that Uganda belongs to all of us. Born, citizens, residents, all of us who claim Uganda, it belongs to us. Nobody has a right, nobody in their sane mind, nobody who claims to be a Pan-Africanist, nobody who thinks they speak for Ugandans has a right to tell any Ugandan child of the soil to leave the land. Uganda belongs to all of us. We are all equal before the law. We are all protected by the Constitution of Uganda. None of us is subhuman. For those of you who are religious, we are created by God. Each of us is a creature of God, a creation of God. Whatever your religious ethos, your religious practices, Christians, someone just said to me, I'm not a Christian. Incidentally, I got born again in 1984. Muslims, I am married to Usman in a mosque in Gambia. Okay, married under Sharia law to Usman. My ancestors worshipped Lubale Mukasa. They worshipped Lubale. As a Nalongo, we venerate Lubale. Right? And so any religious being knows the sanctity of life in religion. We never sacrificed humans, we sacrificed animals. For anybody to debase another human or muntu and say to them they must die, they must be stoned, they must leave the collective because they are different to us, that is not Ubuntu Bulamu. That is not Ubuntu. That is not Ubuntu. That is not the spirit of Pan-Africanism. I am an African feminist, a radical queer African feminist. I will defend to the death the right of sexual and gender minorities. And again, as I said, I don't have to be a forest or a lake to defend environmental rights. I don't have to be a chicken or a goat to defend animal rights. Likewise, my sexual orientation, my gender identity do not come into question when I defend sexual minorities. Uganda consists of a majority heterosexual population. Uganda consists of homosexual population. Uganda has individuals who fly from being heterosexual to being homosexual, and they swim in between. Uganda has also got people who are both homosexual and heterosexual at the same time. We cannot legislate as if the majority who are heterosexual adults will tell other adults how to live their lives. Job Mutua, if your anus is for excretion only, that is your anus and that is your business. Period. You have no right over my anus and what I do with it. Again, I am an adult, above 18 years old. My anus, my business. If I consent to have anal sex with a man or a woman or a dildo, my anus, my business. Period. The Ministry of Health must not be criminalized for doing its work. Just as Yoweri Museveni is praised and lauded for promoting condom use in order to prevent HIV infection, in order also to be a contraception against unwanted pregnancies, condoms are unnatural. Condoms are hailed as a preventive, protective barrier method against HIV infection, STI transmission, as well as unwanted pregnancies. Right? Conception is prohibited by condoms. Likewise, providing lubricants to men and women and transgender and intersex people who use them for vaginal or anal or oral sex is a medical health intervention, mainly to prevent transmission of STIs, including HIV and AIDS. Educate yourselves. Lubricants are essential to prevent HIV transmission, to prevent STI transmission. And I think it's not only men who use lubricants for anal sex. Women used lubrication long time. We had KY jelly many years ago. Educate yourselves. Don't expose your ignorance publicly. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable to be ignorant and come to these debates. Educate yourselves. Educate yourselves. sex education, sexuality education, comprehensive sexuality education is a must for Ugandans. And I want to say that it is disingenuous and dishonest, deceptive for Council, I think his name is Alenyo, to say that the law is only about promotion. Nonsense! The law has a list of proposed crimes, from homosexuality to aggravated homosexuality to child grooming to premises to marriage between people of the same sex, promotion of homosexuality, disqualification from employment upon conviction, duty to report acts of homosexuality, etc., etc. There are very many created new laws, as well as crimes that were introduced in 2009. There have been a few others that have been added. And so you can't say to us, oh, the media should not be worried. No. Don't be disingenuous. There's a whole package of crimes, both that were in the old anti-homosexuality law that was annulled by the Constitutional Court, and some additions around child grooming, around premises, around promotion, etc., etc. And I think that the public of Uganda has to be very careful. If the NRM, the ruling party majority, thought they were legislating against the opposition and people out there, hello? Andrew Mwenda, the first target, who's been named in this debate, is a member of the NRM. Fox Odoi from the Minority Report is from the NRM. If people thought it was going to target just homosexuals, you will be surprised to find that it is targeting your own close ally and friends, your children as well. This law is uncalled for, it's unnecessary, especially when it's targeting adult same-sex consensual behavior. I want to end by reiterating what my comrade in arms, I salute you, Justin Barrier, has said. Let us focus on criminalizing what is already criminalized: pedophilia, sexual offenses against children, the abuse of minors, etc., etc. Adults are adults. We should stop infantilizing adults. What individuals do in consent, after consenting, upon agreement, in the privacy of their rooms, is not your business. Job Mutua, your anus, your business. The anuses of other adults are not your business. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Stella Nyanzi, for giving us your time and for coming to the show. But I'll just request you to stay on so that you can also hear the final remarks of Isaac Kayonde, so that we can all end the show with a handshake and a virtual, that would be a virtual handshake for Dr. Stella Nyanzi, just to prove that we are still human, yes, and we do not want to kill each other and ride motorcycles over each other.
Yes.
Isaac, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the show. It has been quite enlightening. But I want to reiterate my earlier position, and that the law, in all its form, we are meant to believe we are meant to believe, and we see that it is a law that may not be fair to the homosexuals, but fairness, we might as well leave to God. But it is right and good for our society, and because our society deems it fit and says it is right and good, I think we shall respect our society's views on it. That said, I've also registered the personal attacks on different people, whether they're homosexuals or gays, but I want to believe that we are able to distinguish the sin from the sinner, and we can hate the sin and love the sinner. That, like I said, things to do with behavior, we can certainly control, and we can certainly curtail through our laws of the land. To Stella Nyanzi, really, again, this debate of, say, for example, nature and the outliers of nature, If a child is born with 6 fingers, you seek to cut off the 6. If a child is born with deformity, we treat it. If a child is born with albinism, science continues to continue today. We don't kill them. We don't kill them. But certainly, it doesn't become our normal. If children are being born with deformities, pregnant mothers, science found that, okay, you need to have iron and calcium and whatever it is, we give it to them so that they don't do that. So for me, it's more of a debate which gets lost into sex, right? And we are saying that our health systems must provide treatment for everybody. But once such a behavior then puts another extra burden, especially a behavior that society has deemed really not favorable for us, it puts more the health budget and the health whatever. So if we say, okay, you know what, we don't want to go that far. We don't want to be treating people for anal things. The anus is for excretion, like Mutu has said. And all this. Anyway, to cut the long story short, it's good and right for our society.
All right. Thank you very much. Isaac Kayonde, NIM mobilizer, former member of parliament, aspirant for Gomba West. Job Richard Matua, who is, are you still aspiring to be national chairperson?
Yes, and I am the leading aspirant, not just aspirant, but the leading aspirant.
For the NIM, thank you very much for coming. Justin Barria, who is the Director of Access to Justice at HRAPF.
Is it an NGO?
Thank you very much for coming. Yes, it's a non-profit. It's a non-profit. And Council Alenyo George William, thank you very much for coming. Also, I would love to thank in a special way Dr. Stella Nyanzi for giving us her time, because she's in another time zone and it probably took a lot for her to give us all these 3 hours. I, of course, had told her 2 hours, but well, you forgive me, you saw where the discussion was going and I wanted everybody to have their say. But the biggest people that have had, that we believe we've impacted with our views and opinions are the people that were listening and watching. And I would like to thank those in a special way, those who listened to us on Twitter Spaces and those who watched us on YouTube. It is important that we have these discussions. I believe in the freedom of the press, and my only problem with this law is that it refuses me from hosting a gay man on my media house. If that can be removed, then we can have a discussion about what I feel about that law.
Don't you think they come in a disguised format?
For us, we believe, and maybe moving forward, when we are hosting conversations about gay rights and whatever, we'll make sure that Asuman Basadira is here to counter the narrative, but also so that in case we are arrested, we are taken together with him under his own law. Thank you very much. My name is Daniel Lutaya, and you've been watching Viewpoint. Catch us again next week at the same time on the same station, and we'll see you next week. It's also important for you to follow us on Twitter and Facebook at News247 UG. Many thanks to my producers, Chris Opendi, camera person David Sozi, and my other producer, Sharon Nabule. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.